Let's get peppy. Welcome to PEP 228. That's Pep or Planet Extra podcast. I am Chaz Licciardello, a host of Planet America on ABC Australia, and this is an official podcast of the ABC. So say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we're going to cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the Pep with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and we are on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel. You'll also find timestamps and show notes in our blurbs, and if you leave a comment under our current episode, we are likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue sky us at PEPCasterDave. That's at PepChaz Dr. Dave. If you want to chat to some fellow peppers, you can join our Discord server. It's on the screen now or in the blurb of the podcast. But if you want to contact me or Lockie the Lucky privately, why not email us? That address is producer at pepthepodcast.com. That address again is producer at pepthepodcast.com. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. We're recording today at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. That's Sydney time, or 6:30 p.m. on Monday night, New Orleans time, where we welcome the lady who will never raise the stakes and inconsequential views. I speak, of course, of Elle Hardy. Happy Labor Day, Elle.
Thank you. Thank you for putting me to work.
Yeah, thanks for labouring through a pod for us. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, just so let's do some proper craft here, Elle. Elle, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you've been getting up to, and tell us where people can reach you. Right at the top of the pod.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I am a journalist, author, and podcaster. I am Australian, obviously by birth, and live in the United States. You can find me on all of the social media places at Elle Hardy, ellehardy.com. I keep sometimes update with my work. And I'm in the process of writing a book for Simon & Schuster on Reverend Moon and the Unification Church and all sorts of activities that they got up to around the world, which should be out. It should be finished by the end of this year. I don't think it will be. And it should be out in a couple of years.
Well, look, if you feel like you're dragging the chain a little bit on the book, then never fear, because Richie has been talking about his Wikipedia book for the last decade, and it's still not out. So
I know it both reinforces and terrifies me.
I should have warned you. I was going to ask you about all that, but that's okay. But you did very well. I am calling this a new pod. I'm calling this PEP 228. It's going to be extra-like. We got some old stuff that I'd like to cover that we just haven't had time to get in there. I roped Elle in at the last second, so thank you very much for that, Elle. So she hasn't had a huge amount of preparation time, so it is extra-like. But we will have some new stuff as well. It's a bit of a hybrid. And I'm about, if you're wondering, about 18 hours behind in my reading. But that actually leads me nicely to the Gratefuls. I'm going to go first this time. Normally I would ask you, but this leads into the Gratefuls. What I'm grateful for is Labor Day. And the reason I'm grateful for Labor Day is because it means rather than reading 400 articles today, I only need to read about 60 or 70 because everyone's on a holiday in America, which means I've got the time to do an extra pep and not fall further behind. So thank you very much, America, and whoever came up with Labor Day. I really appreciate it. If you could have more of them on a Monday, that would be greatly appreciated. We'd have more extras if you could. Elle, what are you grateful for?
Just before we go there, I realised that we might have a diamond and silk dynamic today.
Really?
I can never remember which one is diamond and silk.
I think the dead one is silk. Am I dead?
Because no, one of them did all of the heavy lifting, and the other one just sat there going, yeah, kind of doing all that. So that's kind of my role today. But I can never remember which one's which.
Are you doing the heavy lifting or are you doing the
I'm doing the aha-ing.
Okay, just checking. Because if I need to do the aha-ing, I'll get Lockie in because he's much better at aha than I am.
He's very good. I'm loving all the extra sound effects as well he's been introducing. It's great.
Well done, Lockie. Lockie, can you just check which one's dead? I think it's Silk who's dead.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm not sure she'll
and
be doing.
Which one's the aha one? Yeah.
Yeah. Check both of them. Because it's if the aha one is the one who's alive, then I haven't checked out many of their pods or her pods recently, but if she's the aha one, that might be quite spare.
Probably why I haven't checked them out.
Yes. But yeah, but what are you grateful for apart from Diamond and Silk?
Well, always. I'm going to be very greedy and have two quick ones.
Yeah.
Just because last time I was on, I mentioned I had a new podcast called Hell to Pay with some friends.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of Peppers tuned in and have been providing some nice feedback and encouragement. So I'm very grateful for Peppers. But I'm most grateful for what I call the millennial nostalgia complex. So I kind of realized it's basically the reason why boomers are so happy all the time, apart from they're the ones that can only afford houses and things, is that when you realize how much entertainment is really just catered for this like kind of permanent nostalgia. And I sort of realized that as an elder millennial that we're entering this period in, I think it was Super Bowl 2021, the one in California where they had like the halftime entertainment was just like Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, like everything just from our era. And that's what we're living in now. And I realized this to full effect in summer because I went to go see Oasis in London. And I suspect that there might be quite a bit of crossover between the Pepper audience and those who are going to Oasis when they're in Australia. And yeah, just got to say it's absolutely mint. It's such a good show. I had such a good time. And everyone that's got tickets, you will love it.
That sounds like a good grateful to me. Lockie looks like he's got a result here.
Yeah, Hardway Diamond, it passed away.
Diamond's the dead one.
In 2023.
And which one's the aha one?
Richardson. Silk.
Silk is the aha one. So
Silk
it is the aha one who's still alive. How about that? There you go.
Wow.
It says on Wikipedia, Hardaway was notably more talkative during their appearances, while Richardson often just expressed agreement.
Well, if you want to agree with everything I say, Elle, I won't protest. I was just going to add, much like Diamond, I'm going to talk a bit here, on the retro thing, the Millennium nostalgia thing, you were just suggesting that the reason why they're all the Super Bowl acts is because you're moving into the prime age for Super Bowl entertainment. I'm not sure it's just an age thing. I think it's also that when they put together this kind of stuff, they want the artists who most people would know. And
for sure.
But that's not. But while in the past you might have gone, okay, we want something that 40-year-olds would know and 50-year-olds would know, so it's an age thing. I actually think it's something different. I think it's that the fact that today culture is so atomized that there is almost no one who everyone knows. I mean, there's like Taylor Swift, there's like Chappell Roan. They're just like Lockie's shocked they even.
No, I'm just glad Chappell Roan's been mentioned on the podcast finally.
There we go. But I mean, yeah,
this man has teenage daughters. Yeah,
yes, and I have teenage musical taste. There would be maybe 10 artists who the bulk of society know these days. That whereas your Eminems and your Rihannas and the people who just got in there before we atomized in terms of cultural taste, they're the ones who most people would know because the youngsters still know them as well. But because there is nothing of general interest anymore, so they know the general interest stuff, but they don't know each other's tastes. Like the new stuff. There are even amongst young people, they don't know each other's tastes, and so if you want someone who is close to unifying, you just need someone that's going to appeal to old people.
Oh yeah, no, that's very true. It's something I do bang on about a lot. Is the lack of common culture now is very meaningful and kind of you can see it seeping into things like politics because it's just, like you said, people are so atomized.
Yeah, totally. So where this goes in 30 years' time when Eminem's like The Who and he's like 70 or 80 or whatever, how this works then, I don't know. I mean, I keep on saying I keep on expecting this to go around and there to be another format which might unify people a bit more. We'll see. I got no idea. But it's an interesting little period for culture. I would like to get straight into the updates. I'm conscious of your time here, Elle. I know it's nighttime and becoming later by the moment as we talk about popular culture. First update, Bolton, the Bolton raid, which we discussed last week with Dave. At the time, we were unusually circumspect because there wasn't a lot of information out there. It was still early days and we had no real idea if it was justified or not. Some people went early and they were going, weaponization and all this kind of stuff, but we were going, let's just see what goes. The fact that 2 courts signed off on search warrants for Bolton's home and office seemed worth noting at the time. But otherwise, we were just waiting and seeing. We still don't know a lot, but we know more and enough to suggest that waiting and seeing might be a good idea. The New York Times had a very interesting piece about this. I don't know if you saw that New York Times piece, Elle, but it's...
I didn't think I did.
No, it went into how the investigation into Bolton supposedly started back in 2020. It may have been originally dodgy and revenge-driven. We don't really know. But what we do know is that it didn't take long for intelligence officials to collect information from a foreign spy service of an American adversary. We haven't been notified which adversary. Could be Iran, could be China. Who knows? Either the Americans stole this information or it was given to them by a third country, and it appeared to contain emails from during the first Trump administration between Bolton and people close to him on an unclassified system in which Bolton sent classified information. Now, that classified information appeared to come from documents that Bolton had access to when he was National Security Advisor, and the people he sent it to were helping him gather material for his book. So it seemed that he was trying to send himself material for his book. Importantly, though, if that is all true, and that's an if, and the foreign adversary had the emails, that suggests that Bolton's emails were intercepted or he was hacked, so he really stuffed up. It would also explain why the FBI's Kash Patel was supposedly tipped off by the CIA, because they're the ones who do the foreign surveillance, not the FBI. The main question, though, is, are the emails real? Because it'd be very easy for those emails to be concocted by the foreign adversary or altered in some way, especially since Bolton didn't use the material in his book in the end. So if he sent this juicy classified information to himself for his book, why didn't he use it? We don't know. But that could explain why the raid happened. If they have reason to believe Bolton still possesses the original material, then they'd want to gather that material as evidence to build their case that the emails were real and that he really was passing on classified material dodgily. But honestly, this is just one article in the New York Times. We've got nothing else. And this article is co-written by Devlin Barrett, who is the New York Times' go-to guy for leaks from the administration, so could be spin. We also don't know if they found anything in the raid either. And there's also been no charges laid yet. So who knows what's going on here. I just think at this stage we shouldn't be making any assumptions and we shouldn't be bashing Trump or anyone for that matter because we just don't know. This could be super dodgy from the Trump administration and weaponization and all the rest of it. Or maybe Bolton is just really screwed up here. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about this story?
I mean, no, I'm very much with Dr. Dave from last week that I don't particularly enjoy feeling any sympathy for John Bolton. Yeah, I guess my only suggestion would be, there could be a compromise. MAGA could get their show trial, but we could say hold it at The Hague.
That'd be nice. You could televise it.
Win-win.
Yes. Yeah, if Richie was here, he'd undoubtedly bring up his disappointment that there wouldn't be a full-on military tribunal. He's a big fan of MAGA people calling for military tribunals for Obama. That's one of his favourite aspects of the last 12 months. Well, let's get on to the next update then on tariffs. First of all, before we talk about, I just want to talk about the court case. We did flag last week that the appeals court examining this court case would be returning soon with their verdict, and it could come any day. It came. It wasn't good for Trump. Recall, Congress is generally supposed to legislate tariffs. As the court put it, the core congressional power to impose taxes such as tariffs is vested exclusively in the legislative branch by the Constitution. But there are a few laws out there allowing the president to impose tariffs on a limited basis if he wants. But Trump ignored all of those laws and he chose to shoehorn tariffs from a completely different law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, AEPA. Now, the reason why he wanted to use AEPA, presumably, is because it imposes absolutely no limits whatsoever on him because it's not meant to be used for tariffs. He basically declared the United States trade deficit with other countries to be a national emergency. And he also declared the smuggling of fentanyl from, he said, China, Canada and Mexico to be a national emergency. And then he slapped his tariffs on in response. And the Court of International Trade ruled a few months ago he can't do that. So Trump appealed, and now the US Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has upheld that original decision 7-4. Okay, so on their ruling, the majority made a few points. Number one, when Congress wrote AEPA, let's consider the context for a second. They wrote that in, I think, 1977. Just before AEPA, there was a statute called the Trading with the Enemy Act that Nixon used slightly unconventionally and controversially to impose tariffs in 1971.
Richard Nixon doing something underhanded.
Who would have thought? But still, Elle, right now, wouldn't you prefer Richard Nixon?
Yeah. I mean, he's just, I think about Richard Nixon like every day. A lot of my book is about him, but he's a fascinating character, but that's just an aside.
I got to say, I was going to say I can't wait, but I absolutely can wait for the figure in 30 years' time who comes along where we're going, oh my God, why can't we have Trump back? Because it's going to happen. It always does. It always gets worse. The Wire told us. So Richard Nixon does something a bit controversial. It ends up being a Supreme Court case. They called it the Yoshida II case in 1975. Nixon won that court case. And it's the Yoshida II case that Trump is now relying on as a precedent in this circumstance. And it was right after that, in 1977, that AEPA was written. So they were hyper aware of the possibility of poorly worded statutes being used to impose tariffs. So what did they do? As the court said, notably when drafting AEPA, Congress did not use the term tariff or any of its synonyms like duty or tax. Well, maybe they were just careless, even though literally the Supreme Court case had just occurred about tariffs being used in a sloppily worded statute. Maybe they were just really careless. No, they weren't careless. This is what AEPA did allow the president to do in an emergency. Investigate, block during the pendency of investigation, regulate, direct and compel, nullify, void, prevent or prohibit any acquisition, holding, withholding, use, transfer, withdrawal, transportation, importation or exportation of dealing in or exercising any right, power or privilege with respect to or transactions involving any property in which any foreign country or a national thereof has any interest by any person or with respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. They were being very specific, Elle. They were being very, very careful with their wording. Now, Trump's team argued that sure, they didn't mention tariffs. Might not have been an accident that they didn't mention tariffs. But they did say that the president could regulate importation. And that's kind of like tariffs. Seems a massive stretch to me, and it did to the court as well. They said there are numerous statutes that do delegate to the president the power to impose tariffs. In each of those statutes that we have identified, Congress has used clear and precise terms to delegate tariff power, reciting the term duties or one of its synonyms. In contrast, none of these statutes use the broad term regulate without also separately and explicitly granting the president the authority to impose tariffs. The absence of any such tariff language in IEPA contrasts with statutes where Congress has affirmatively granted such power and included clear limits on that power. The court also noted that IEPA has never been used to impose tariffs before, so no one has interpreted it the way Trump interpreted it before. They also said, in every statute in which Congress delegated to the president some tariffing authority, there are a lot of limitations. It requires an extensive process of investigation, notice, negotiation. There are time limits. There are tariff limits. So it seemed incredibly unlikely that they would then turn around and allow the president to do whatever he likes with tariffs at any time with zero process through IEPA invalidating all their other statutes about tariffs. Seems very unlikely. They said it would create a functionally limitless delegation of congressional taxation authority. And even if Congress had meant to do that, it would have been unconstitutional anyway as a delegation because Congress can't delegate their entire taxation authority to the president, even though he'd like them to. Why can't they do that? Because it violates a new, shiny little doctrine from the Supreme Court called the Major Questions Doctrine, which is that for Congress to delegate a power to the president that will have a dramatic impact on the economy, there must be a convincing demonstration that Congress unambiguously confers that power. So that's why it's been used in the past, the Major Questions Doctrine, to strike down major questions like the forgiveness of student debt under the Biden administration, because that was worth $500 billion. Quite significant. In this case, the import sector is worth $4 trillion annually. So that's a major, major, major question. And tariffs aren't even mentioned in the supposed delegating statute. So honestly, in my view, I think this is a pretty straightforward decision, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Supreme Court agrees. What do you think about the decision, Elle? And do you think the Supreme Court will go along with this?
I'm definitely not the person to ask on legal issues, but that's what I wanted to ask you. Really was would the Supreme Court, go along with it? And I mean, is that not something that you think that the Trump administration would be rooting for in a way? Because if the Supreme Court give him this, it's open season, right? He can just continue to use that even more aggressively. 100%.
If the Supreme Court agree to Trump being able to do this, he can do anything he likes with tariffs from now on. In fact, any kind of duty. He can just declare an emergency anytime he wants for anything and impose any kind of duty he likes. So Trump's newfound export taxes that he imposed on NVIDIA, he can impose on anyone. He can really do whatever he likes. So yeah, that's another reason I think the Supreme Court won't allow him to do this, because I think the open season is so obvious. Yeah, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, right, so they can continue to collect the tariffs that they are now until is it 14th of October?
That's what this court said. This court said October 14, but I reckon the Supreme Court are going to immediately extend that injunction to when they're finished. And the Supreme Court, in all likelihood, won't be finished till the middle of next year. So I reckon these tariffs are here until June next year, I'd say.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, what would happen if the Supreme Court strikes it down?
Yep.
And then they've got, they're holding all of these tariffs. Like, there is no way that Donald J. Trump is giving those back. And I was just trying to think of, from the perspective of these like Japan and Korea and all these countries that have just gone through all these negotiations, most of them seem pretty relieved to get out of things fairly easily, to give him some wins, to make him feel good and look good. Does this set off a whole new round of deal making? Do the countries want to go through this again? Like I said, there is just no way that Trump would ever give that money back. So is that just a whole new, just almost renders all of at least the compromises and deals that have been made over the last couple of months could just kind of be moot and we might have to start all over again.
That's a really, really interesting point, because the Trump administration, when in court, they're arguing, one of the reasons they're arguing that they should win this case was because they were saying, we're going to have to pay back trillions of dollars of tariffs if you strike this down. It will bankrupt the country. And Dave and I had a bit of a laugh about that last week, because there's no way that they are actually raising trillions of dollars of tariffs.
Of course, yeah.
Like at best so far, the relevant tariffs here, I've even gone into what the relevant tariffs are, I will in a second, but at best the relevant tariffs that they've raised are maybe $80 or $90 billion so far. They haven't raised trillions of dollars. Now, whether they even need to pay it back, I think is an open question if the court strikes it down. But even if they do, it's $80 or $90 billion. And if they seriously thought that there was a genuine chance that they'd have to pay it back, well, then don't bitch about it in a year's time when the Supreme Court hands down their verdict. Stop collecting them now until you know whether you have to pay them back or not. Of course, they're not going to do that. They're just going to collect them and then whinge. And but if they collect them until June next year, you might be looking at $300 or $400 billion worth of tariffs at that point in time. And you're right, I can't see Trump handing them back. But like I said, I'm not even sure they have to. But I don't think he will, whether they have to or not. He'll come up with some reason that he doesn't have to. I do want to go into a little bit more detail about this, though. First of all, Trump's reaction generally. He doesn't agree with this case. You'll be surprised to hear. He tweeted out, "All tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed, but they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak. We have to be strong. The USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits and unfair tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers imposed by the country's friend or foe that undermines our manufacturers, farmers, and everyone else. If allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America." Literally destroy the United States of America. How did America cope until April 2025, I ask you?
Was there no thank you for your attention to this matter?
Oh, no, look, I'll call the drink for it, but I cut that tweet short. It did end with thank you for your attention to this matter.
That to me is the most concerning thing. If there's no thank you for this attention to this thank you for your attention to this matter, it would be very concerning.
That would be your evidence that he's in fact dead.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's.
Which it's not one of the topics I'm planning to talk about today, but I will acknowledge it exists.
Can I just quickly touch on that? Because my favourite piece of evidence from a journalist last Friday, there were a lot of journalists that sort of, were rushing around and trying to hang around the White House to see if there was any, any scuttlebutt, any hints of him actually being unwell. And one journalist overheard Les Mis being blasted in the Rose Garden and said, who else would be blasting a musical in the Rose Garden? But then again, if you wanted to prove that he was alive when he was in fact dead, it's what I would do. But I would have done Cats because I understand that's his favourite.
Yes. No, totally. I think that's the best evidence ever that he's alive, if they're blasting Les Mis. Absolutely. I just want to note as well, on the highly partisan thing he's saying, Democratic presidents appointed 6 of the judges in the majority out of 7. The other one was appointed by a Republican. Democratic presidents appointed 2 of the judges in the minority out of 4, and Republicans are 2. So there were people on both sides of the majority and the minority. It's on both partisan sides.
Were they MAGA? Were they MAGA or were they Republican? Because I feel like they're 2 quite different things.
That's a great call. I don't know. That's a great call. I will note, though, the dissent was actually written by an Obama-appointed judge. But no, that's a good call. I mean, there may just be no MAGA judges on this court. I don't know. What does this actually mean, though? Like I said, it doesn't apply to every tariff. It only affects the Liberation Day tariffs, the ones from April, which are 10% of for every country, plus the big ones, like on Heard Island, the Penguin Island, that kind of stuff. Also, the second-term tariffs against China, Mexico, and Canada doesn't affect any sector tariffs, doesn't affect the steel tariffs, aluminium tariffs, car tariffs, silicon chip tariffs, doesn't affect Trump's first-term tariffs against China. According to the Tax Foundation, it affects the Trump's tariffs will go from 69%, affecting 69% of US imports, to 16% of US imports after this. But like you say,
so it's only what he called the reciprocal tariffs, right?
The reciprocal tariffs and also the Canada, Mexico, and China ones, which were the fentanyl tariffs. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Supposedly,
Tariffs, yeah.
supposedly, poor old Canada. But yeah, so the reciprocal ones and the fentanyl ones, that's it. And like I said, I fully expect this to not apply to any tariffs until the middle of next year. I mean, Supreme Court might get a wriggle on. I mean, theoretically, they could return their verdict by December. But in reality, they tend to take their time on this kind of stuff. The other thing is, this doesn't even stop Trump imposing lots of tariffs. He can do it, just not IEPA tariffs. Like, there's heaps of laws he can use to impose tariffs if he doesn't want to be a dickhead about it. He already uses Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act for sectoral tariffs, like aluminium, cars, lumber, silicon chips. It goes on. He can use the 974 Trade Act. It gives you heaps of flexibility, basically any tariffs you like, but it caps them at 15% and only for 150 days. And yeah, he likes the flexibility. Or better still, you could follow the bloody Constitution and ask Congress to impose these tariffs for you, which is what they're meant to do. He hasn't even asked them. You'd think he'd at least ask them before he went on his own, but just that's not his way. But I'll tell you do you have any other thoughts about this tariff before I tell you my most interesting takeaway about the court case? No?
Nope, hit me.
Okay. This one has not been covered. I think I'm the only person who thinks this is a point worth making, which means it's probably not worth making. But I think it's worth making. And that is, if you recall the CASA case, that was the birthright citizenship case a few months back in the Supreme Court.
Yep.
The appeals court spoke a bit about it just now. The CASA case found that lower courts shouldn't be imposing universal injunctions willy-nilly. If they find the government has infringed against the plaintiff, then they should, as much as possible, only look after the plaintiff, not people who aren't part of the case. Right? And the idea was you let the Supreme Court hand out the universal injunctions, not district courts, not random courts in Texas or California. Like, let the Supreme Court deal with national issues, right? And that's exactly what the appeals court just said now. They said the lower court should revisit its decision because they had a universal injunction against these tariffs. Revisit the decision to block the tariffs for everyone and instead only block the tariffs for the parties to the case. That's what they said. In the end, it's not going to matter much because this is going to go to the Supreme Court anyway. Trump's already said he's going to appeal. So it's going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will make a national decision soon enough, in less than a year, maybe in a few months. But this is my point. Let's revisit the arguments used in the CASA case. Justice Kagan in particular, and to a lesser extent Justice Sotomayor and Justice Jackson, all were extremely anxious about the suggestion that what the government might do if they have a losing case is to just take the loss, provide the relief to that one plaintiff and don't appeal. Why don't appeal? Because what Kagan said is they wouldn't want the case to get to the Supreme Court where the Supreme Court could block their move for the entire country. And so they just limit the losses to just one plaintiff, which was a clever idea. She said that would obviously be terrible because it would force every single person who wanted the illegal move by the government to be blocked to have to go through a court case. They wouldn't be able to, lots wouldn't be able to afford it. They wouldn't have the time, etc. And that makes sense as a theory, something to fear. But let's look at what happened right now. The tariff case is a losing case for the government. I think they're going to lose it. At the very least, they have a large chance of losing it. They've lost twice now to a wine company in this case. But how did they respond? Did they just take the loss and just say to the wine company, you don't have to pay the tariffs anymore and not appeal? No. They did exactly what Kagan said they would not do. They immediately have appealed to the Supreme Court. They're rolling the dice and they're taking on the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court rules against them, that's the end of these tariffs for everyone around the world. So we should acknowledge that, in my view, we should acknowledge that Kagan and Jackson and Sotomayor, their nightmare has not come true from the CASA case, at least in this instance. And I think that's a point worth making. You got any thoughts?
No, I just stand in solidarity with all wine importers. This is a tariff that affects me greatly. So,
so you'd like to see those tariffs taken off right now?
That's right, yes. I know you don't drink, but American wine is, it's it's not something you want to be lumbered with. So it's very important to me that I can drink imported wine.
Fair enough, although I can't imagine why, if you were an American, you wouldn't be drinking. Can I say the brand? I don't think they're available in Australia. Dr. Pepper with Dr. Pepper Zero with berries and cream. I don't know why you wouldn't be drinking that. That is the drink of the gods, and it's not available in.
You're a sick man. You're a sick man.
Supervisor, not available in Australia, so don't worry. I'm not a sick man. I know you're right, I am. But I'm a sick man who has a great time whenever I get to America and hit the fridge. Anyway, next update, budget. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? I got 2 quick stories on this one. They are quick. This isn't going to take too long. Number 1, OMB sneakiness. Now, actually, here's something you can talk about a bit. About Elle. You know a bit about Russell Vogt, don't you? He's right down your alley. He's Mr. Christian Nationalist.
A little. My old mate Jason Wilson, who does a lot of reporting on the right for The Guardian, has done a bit of work on him. But yeah, I'm not super across him, but I'm sort of aware of his work.
How do you pronounce it? I'm never sure. Is it Vogt or Vought?
Ooh, I'd say, I'm just trying to think if I've heard it. I'd say Russell Vought.
Vought. Okay, Russell Vought. Okay, well, look, he was the guy in charge of Project 2025, and he is now in charge of the OMB, and he is in charge of, well, unofficially in charge of the entire Christian Nationalist project in the American government at the moment. So he's in charge of a lot. He's a busy bee. And he's been quite sneaky in the OMB. That's the Office of Management and Budget. In 2022, Congress passed a law requiring the White House to make OMB apportionment records public. Because the OMB, basically, they're in charge of spending the money for the executive that Congress legislates. Like Congress will appropriate the money, they'll give it to the president to execute, and it's OMB that actually does the executing, right? And after Trump withheld military aid from Ukraine in 2019, Congress got a bit toey about the OMB's work. And so they said, why don't you just make public all your appropriations from now on so we know if you're playing dodgy tricks with the money? Now, Russell Vought argued that disclosing the budget records would reveal sensitive information. And so he took the public database down in March this year. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, sued him, and they won because there's legislation saying it's going to be public. And the records started going up again in the last week or two. And guess what they found? In over 100 cases, the OMB had placed tricky little conditions in their footnotes of the apportionment of funds. Like, for instance, requiring that funds be spent only if they align with the president's views, whatever that means. It led to the Trump administration simply not spending billions of dollars that Congress budgeted for education, health, housing, and research programs. And by the way, a lot of that money, they'd lost court cases over. As in, it had been taken to court because they didn't want to spend it. The court said, no, you have to spend it. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll spend it. And then OMB put their dodgy little conditions in flagrant disobedience of the court. And also, we got even no idea how much money hasn't been spent because we've only seen some of the footnotes so far. They're still publicising these records. So we won't know for a little while on exactly how much damage has been done here. So in particular, they were trying to defund various programs from education, health and housing. They really focus on them. Okay, so that is incredibly lawless. And let's stay tuned on that one. But that's just classic Russell Vought right there. Do you have any thoughts on that story?
No, I mean, he's the guy, he said he wanted to traumatize federal employees, didn't he?
That's the one.
Yeah. He's not so nice guy.
Yeah. No, he's one of those. He's one of those religious types. He doesn't act very religious. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I do. Because he's Heritage Foundation aligned, I believe, and so he has always said that. Oh, yeah, we need separation of church and state, and I'm going to uphold all of that. But I mean, yeah, as much as he's a pretty hardcore Christian nationalist, I don't think. I mean, he's just sort of a straight up, sort of hard-hearted Republican as much as anything. It's just all about cutting funds and doing all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, for me, it's my concern with him is less about the fact that he wants to cut lots of money. I mean, that's a legitimate political decision, but the fact he seems determined to unilaterally take over Congress's role. That's what gets me. Like the argument's been had and you lost, but he goes and does it anyway.
Yeah.
The other story is involving what they call pocket rescissions. I'm going to need to explain what that means. This isn't great, but it's a lot better than the other one because at least they weren't hiding what they're doing. They've been very upfront in what they're doing. The White House this week released this letter. It says, I herewith report 15 rescissions of budget authority totaling $4.9 billion. The proposed rescissions affect programs of the Department of State as well as the United States Agency for International Development and International Assistance Programs, so USAID. Now, it's totally legal for Trump to publicly try to rescind congressional spending. That's not a problem. There's a whole procedure for it spelt out in the Empowerment Control Act. And they rescinded $9 billion of spending only a few months ago following that process, right? So they can do that. That's fine. But there's a devil in the details here. How it's meant to work is the president can freeze funding for up to 45 days while Congress considers whether to vote to rescind that funding or not. And if they do, then the funding's gone. If they don't, then the funding has to be spent after 45 days. That's what the law says, okay? Here's the loophole. If no funding is spent by the end of the fiscal year, which is the 30th of September, it expires without being spent. So, if you announce in the last week of August, hypothetically speaking, that you're freezing $4.9 billion of funding, it doesn't matter what Congress does. The 45 days will not be up by the 30th of September. So if Congress votes to rescind it, great, it's rescinded. If they don't vote to rescind it, the 45 days isn't up by the end of the fiscal year, which means the funding will expire because it's frozen. It's a sneaky way of forcing spending cuts against the will of Congress. That is called a pocket rescission. But is it legal? According to the Government Accountability Office in 2018, they said, we conclude the Empowerment Control Act does not permit the empowerment of funds through their date of expiration. The plain language of the ICA permits only the temporary withholding of budget authority and provides that unless Congress rescinds the amount at issue, they must be made available for obligation. And look, that opinion makes sense because if that was legal, the president could effectively cancel any federal spending at any time just by delaying the release of funds until the last 45 days and then freezing it. Susan Collins, by the way, also agrees. She says, that's a Republican senator from Maine, any effort to rescind appropriated funds without congressional approval is a clear violation of law. What I don't get is why they just don't go through Congress. They already did this. Congress was happy to rescind the $9 billion. I'm just so sick of these guys trying to arrogate more power for themselves. It just never stops. What's your thought about the pocket rescission? Do you have any views?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just in line with the plan, right? It's, what was that thing Tony Abbott used to say? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yes.
And the entire ethos is obviously to clog things up in the courts, to keep doing what you want, to go down a path that makes, eggs difficult to unscramble. We just see this played out over and over again. And that's very, very deliberate. It really does feel like it can, I think, probably can get a little bit overplayed, the kind of Machiavellian Stephen Miller kind of pulling all the strings, but it's a very, it feels like he set the tone in some way, perhaps to really make this the ethos wherever possible. But, everyone's also sort of power building. These are a lot of self-made people that haven't always come up through the traditional Republican Party ranks, and that there is a lot of power grabs going on. So you see your colleague doing that and you decide to do it for yourself. So I really think it is just part of the anarchy of Trump too. The kind of controlled anarchy, if that's too much of an oxymoron. But there is method to the madness, but there's also just madness.
Yes, there is.
I do just have to apologise. So my cat, Irma, who has appeared in a recording before, it came in screaming for dinner. So, if you just heard a bossy little cat yelling while you were talking about that was Irma.
I assure you that there is no need to apologise for the entrance of Irma. If anything, you should apologise for Irma not being present more during this podcast as much as possible. It's a very cat-friendly podcast. Dave would approve greatly. Let's skip back in time a little bit. I want to talk about the 2026. I say skip back in time to 2026. The stuff has been happening leading up to the 2026 election, the 2028 election for that matter, which I'd like to go over. It's like to sort of think about in context because, the table is being set for potentially quite an interesting Senate election in particular. I want to start with some polling. Approval polling average for Trump have settled at about 44% at the moment. 44% approval, 52% disapproval. There's a high from reputable polls from AP NORC with Trump at 45%. The low is Quinnipiac at 37%. Only 20% approval from independents for Quinnipiac. The only thing I'm really noticing about Trump's polling is that it's really sinking amongst 18 to 34s. According to Pew, Trump had 92% approval amongst his 18 to 34-year-old voters when he entered office. It's now at 69% and dropped 11 points in the last 2 months amongst his supporters who are 18 to 34, I might add. Generic ballot.
I imagine that's straight up cost of living stuff, right? That's probably, just largely a response to cost of living measures, I would imagine.
It's so hard to know, but I imagine that will probably be an issue. Well, tell me, Elle, you're in America. What's the cost of living like? Is it an issue for you?
It's a really big topic, and it's hard because America is so diffuse. It's it's so hard to know what's going on, and different things can affect different regions really, really differently. But it is a really big thing that people are talking about at the moment. Just like restaurant prices going up, or like not expensive restaurants, just cafes and things like that. Groceries going up. It's talked about a lot. I mean, I was just on New Orleans Reddit this morning and people were saying it's really weird, but everything is just so much more expensive at the moment. And so, I think it is a really, really big issue. And definitely, I imagine proportionally sort of those like food and rent, is definitely going to hit younger people just by virtue of having less behind them than other people. But I still think it is a pretty big sleeper issue, and there will be not so much a sleeper issue because it was clearly the overarching issue in last year's election. But I think it's one of the things that could really sort of bring Trump's hubris undone, in that he's always been very very good at just saying, trying to manifest what he wants into reality. But when he's saying, he was going out a lot a month or two ago and saying, we brought the egg prices down. And when you can say, we've introduced these tariffs, we're pulling in more money than ever, we're more respected than ever. These are quite intangible things. But when you're saying to people, we've brought egg prices down, and people know because they're going to the supermarket every week to buy them, like, I do feel like that is something of a misstep that might come back to haunt him and stick to him in ways that a lot of his missteps just don't stick to him like they would to anyone else. That I think he needs to be careful about, sort of making those boasts that people understand. But I do think cost of living is huge. I think, it seems that it's what everyone's going to run on, sort of will have to run on in 2026. How the Republicans are going to be able to do it effectively after having been in charge for this long and really made it Trump's economy is quite a different thing. But I mean, any Democrat worth their salt will be running hard on cost of living.
I know you said prices are regional, but from your own experience, is there one particular product or one kind of product that you feel is obviously getting more expensive very noticeably?
That's hard to say. I mean, you did see the egg price fluctuation, but it didn't hit as badly down here as like I know it did in New York and stuff. I mean, just rents. I know that there's a huge problem with rents, particularly in the South, particularly in New Orleans, but all across the South, anywhere that's in natural disaster and hurricane and flood zones. Insurance has gotten so expensive and so out of hand. I know, in New Orleans, a lot of people's annual house insurance policy has gone up 4 or 5-fold in the last year or two. And so people don't want to buy houses, they just want to rent them. So there's sort of a glut of houses on the market, and then it's hard to get rentals. And so it's a really two-speed housing market. And then there's I think is it in West Virginia that one of the big corporations has bought up like a third of the houses or something. And so I think that, just straight up rentals are not reflecting the reality of the market because it's being so distorted by insurance and by corporate ownership of houses. So I know it's kind of an easy thing to say, but I know that rent is really a big issue at the moment, as well as just kind of general grocery inflation.
Are there people who own houses who just aren't getting insurance because the insurance is so expensive?
Yes, I think that you can do that, but then obviously if you have a mortgage, your bank requires you to have insurance. So for a lot of people, when insurance is a problem, they don't own the house outright, so it's easier for them to sell it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, well, you talk about sleeper issues being cost of living. There's something that I think could be a bit of a sleeper issue, actually, which is building the background. Could be the dictator thing. And we know Democrats are getting into this issue. If you look at this YouGov graph, you can see that of the most important issues, according to Democrats, civil rights and liberties have jumped from just over 10% to more than 30% as far as Democrats are concerned in the last 6 months. That's what they think is the most important issue. In fact, nearly 90% of Democrats, according to PRI, think, quote, President Trump is a dangerous dictator whose power should be limited before he destroys American democracy. But it's not just Democrats who are saying this kind of stuff. YouGov reckons 16% of independents now select civil rights liberties as their most important issue, compared to 6% after the election. Under 30s, who picks civil rights issues, civil rights/liberties issues, according to YouGov. This will be interesting for you, Elle, given what we were just saying. Increased from 8% to 20% over the same period. And in fact, they say that is their number one issue. As in 20% is more people saying it's their number one issue than anything else, including cost of living.
Yeah, I guess this is one for Dr. Dave, but how much do people actually vote in line with that?
I don't know. You're right. It is one for Dr. Dave. I'll ask him on Friday. And of course, this is only August. The ICE funds have only just started going out. There's another 12 months to go for this to start to percolate and become a real thing. But also, I just note the generic ballot polls, which I think are always, they're the polls I most care about at this point in time, not approval. For 2026, they tend to be about Democrats +4. So House generic polls is in not your House representatives, just in general. Democrats +4 at the moment. Okay, so let's go through some key states, and I want to know your views on some of these, Elle, because just to remind you, the Democrats need to win 4 Senate seats to take the Senate, which is a pretty big ask because they don't have the best map in front of them. Start with North Carolina. They've now got Roy Cooper officially running in North Carolina. We flagged he might be running. It's now official he is running. The Dems will be happy about that. Would you say Roy Cooper be the favourite at this stage, Elle, or is it always a coin toss in North Carolina? It doesn't matter who's running.
Yeah, North Carolina's a nightmare to pick. I mean, you'd say it's slightly more in the bluer shade of purple now, wouldn't you? Yeah. I mean, he seems to, be well respected and have... a pretty, the solid backing of the Democratic Party behind him. He didn't really have much of a contest for the Senate seat, did he?
No. I mean, he's already...
That's what I figure. Like, he was kind of seen as such a strong candidate that no one really wanted to bother running against him. I mean,
when he was governor, he was always one of the most popular governors in the country.
Yeah, because there was quite a push for him for a while to become Kamala's vice president, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. Yeah.
As like the safest pair of hands. But it was difficult for him to leave the state, if I recall at the time. I mean, he seems like individual Senate seats are so hard to know because there can be such a, it really can come down to a local issue. I mean, we're right in hurricane season at the moment. If a nasty hurricane goes through North Carolina, it could be good for him or it could be good for the Republicans. It's very hard to say. But he seems like one of the better candidates the Democrats are putting up, I would say, for a contentious Senate seat.
That's a really good point about hurricanes. Like, because the elections are going to be in the middle of hurricane season. That's when they are. So that's
the elections are
November 2026.
So I'm thinking the primaries. Yeah. Well, they're at the end of hurricane season,
Yeah. So they could easily be. I mean, the North Carolina hurricane in 2024 happened just before the election. So
that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So and FEMA could be a complete disaster by this time next year. So
it's a complete disaster right now.
Yeah.
But it'll be even more so.
Yeah, totally. So that is a really interesting point. By the way, when you're saying North Carolina becoming a bluish shade of purple, I personally think Roy Cooper is going to win that election because he himself is so popular. But I think generally speaking, North Carolina, while it always seems to poll Democratic, the result almost always is Republican. They've got 2 Republican senators. There's a reason for that. The statewide the presidential election since 2012 the Republican has won every single time. Like even Biden lost North Carolina in 2020. It's just Obama who won North Carolina twice. That is
a good point. Yeah, you're right. It does. Yeah, it is always polling that's misleading. It's got like that Texas thing, not quite as Texasy, but has that theoretically it should be blue, and it just isn't. Yeah,
but I reckon Roy Cooper. I think he would be the favourite just because he personally is so popular, and the Republicans don't have a strong candidate.
Yeah, and name recognition in stuff like that.
Yeah.
For a contentious Senate seat in the midterms is going to mean a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to call that one seat.
Okay.
Let's go to Ohio. This believe it or not is the second most likely. I mean, maybe third because we'll talk about Maine in a second. Ohio, we've got Sherrod Brown running for the Democrats, officially jumping back in. He was the previous senator in Ohio and a very popular one. He was a classic left-wing populist. No doubt I think he's their best bet, the Democrats. He is now officially running. He only lost in 2024 50-46 in the same election where Trump won Ohio by double digits. Right? Like Trump smashed Ohio, but Brown only lost by 4 points to Bernie Moreno. He's now up against John Husted, who is a total nobody. If it's a wave election of some kind, even a small wave, maybe that gets him over the line. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, Ohio sounds tough to win for Democrats these days. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Ohio is growing older and whiter than any other state in the country. So that's why it's, I think a lot of, people tend to remember the 2000 election, the contentious states, Ohio, Florida, and what's the third one escapes me for a moment. But yeah, it was always thought of as one of those, swing states. And Pennsylvania.
And Pennsylvania.
No, it was, Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio used to be the three big swing states. And now it is reliably red. It's not even purple. But yeah, I was just looking up how old Sherrod Brown is, because I feel like for a Democrat, he's a spring chicken. He's 73.
Yes. Yeah. So
he feels like he has been around forever.
So he would be 80 at the end of his term if he won.
So still a spring chicken.
And by the way, Roy Cooper,
the Democrat senator.
Roy Cooper will be 75 at the end of his term as well. So he's even younger for a Democrat. But yes. So what do you reckon about the Sherrod Brown?
Again, name recognition. He seemed very popular. He took those, was always populist, so could, had that, easily gets media attention and people, sort of remember him. But, I mean, he also does feel like a bit of a relic, like in terms of, maybe having had his moment in the Democratic Party. But again, if Ohio is going older and whiter than anywhere else, maybe that sets him up.
Yeah, he's getting older and whiter as well. That's perfect, reflecting Ohio. Okay, let's try Maine now,
But yeah, I would say I still just can't see a Democrat winning Ohio.
Yeah,
basically, I still think against like you said, generic Republican. I think that they would win fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's unlikely myself.
Yeah,
I certainly wouldn't give it to the Democrats. But we can speculate for the purpose of entertainment for a moment where I'm going. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't be betting on Sherrod Brown. It might be really close, but yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay.
Let's go to Maine. Susan Collins has said she's going to run again. She's sitting on a mountain of cash, but she's done almost none of the things that you're supposed to do when you're running for re-election. So people aren't 100% sure she's running, but I think she's going to. I think she will. I would assume.
I mean, who would run instead of her? I haven't heard of any. There's been no one say anything, and you think that. I mean, it never would really pass in Maine, but you think that there was always an opportunity to insurgent populist her from the right. And no one's ever, done it to any great success. So, I just can't see. Yeah, if there's been absolutely no talk of it by now, you think surely she's running.
Yeah, I think she's running. It is not clear, though, who she's running against. Because right now, Chuck Schumer is trying to convince Maine Governor Janet Mills to jump into the race against Susan Collins. But the populist left are pushing hard for not Janet Mills. They're pushing hard for a 40-year-old oyster farmer and veteran called Graham Plattner to be the nominee. I've got a bit of his introductory video here, which we'll play now.
We have watched this state become essentially unlivable for working class people, and it makes me deeply angry. My name is Graham Plattner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine to defeat Susan Collins. A decade of military service going overseas, farming oysters to feed my community, diving to lend a hand to other fishermen, trying to start a family. But everywhere I've gone, it seems like the fabric of what holds us together is being ripped apart by billionaires and corrupt politicians, profiting off of destroying our environment, driving our families into poverty, and crushing the middle class. I did 4 infantry tours in the Marine Corps and the Army. I'm not afraid to name an enemy, and the enemy is the oligarchy. It's the billionaires who pay for it and the politicians who sell us out. And yeah, that means politicians like Susan Collins. I'm not fooled by this fake charade of Collins' deliberations and moderation. The difference between Susan Collins and Ted Cruz is at least Ted Cruz is honest about selling us out and not giving a damn. People know that the system is screwing them. They know it in their bones. Nobody I know around here can afford a house. Healthcare is a disaster. Hospitals are closing. We have watched all of that get ripped away from us, and everyone's just trying to keep it all together. Why can't we have universal health care like every other first world country? Why can't we take care of our veterans when they come home? Why are we funding endless wars and bombing children? Why are CEOs more powerful than unions? We fought 3 different wars since the last time we raised the minimum wage. I'm not pretending to have all the answers, but I know that I'm asking the right questions.
What do you reckon, Elle?
Yeah, he's a very interesting dude. And it's kind of funny. He's one of those candidates on paper that he's kind of your corporate Democrats' wet dream of a candidate. You know, he's disabled, Marine and Army National Guard. He served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He got his university education through the GI Bill. Oyster farmer, gun owner.
Gun instructor. He actually teaches people to use guns.
Firearms and weapons instructor. Yes. Kind of aesthetically working class. Even says that Trump is a fascist. Like he's been very happy to talk about that. But yeah, he's very obviously an anti-establishment candidate. I mean, speaking of spring chickens, Janet Mills, if she's elected, she'll be the oldest freshman senator in history at 77. And Chuck Schumer's, really been pushing hard for her. I mean, Collins in 2020 faced a fairly popular Democrat. I think was it a state or a federal House member? I can't remember. And had her narrowest win in 2 decades, but still won by 8 points.
Yes, she's formidable.
And I mean, a lot of the races, because Democrats have always wanted the Susan Collins seat. And she's always been very clever in that she just, most of their funding comes from out of state. And so she just immediately hangs it around that political opponent's neck and says, that it's not, this is not state issues, it's not local issues. I've gone and fought for Maine and got these ridiculous carve-outs in bills because I'm one of the perpetual holdouts. This person is just getting all this money in from California and New York. And that's always been a pretty successful strategy. But Plattner is, he's interesting. He's got Mamdani's people doing all of his video production.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Mamdani's, I mean, what really kind of made his candidacy pop is sort of widely regarded is his early video work and putting out videos on social media and doing just a lot of vox pops and just looking authentic. But also, speaking to young people, just like looking good and credible on TikTok or, he had really good production. And that sort of gave him instant credibility and shareability and likability and all of that stuff. So I think that's really interesting that Plattner's got them involved. Yeah. He also was endorsed by Bernie Sanders at the weekend.
Yes.
And he's speaking at Bernie's anti-oligarchy rally today.
If anything, I reckon Bernie has, Graham Plattner has been as big a draw card as Bernie has at these rallies. Like his rallies have drawn huge numbers of people.
Yeah, they had to move Sanders' rally today to a bigger venue because of ever since Plattner came on the bill. Yeah. And he's sort of gone, he said he doesn't like being called a liberal, but he's taken on board a lot of Sanders' kind of policies, particularly around universal healthcare, fighting the rich, and he's, even supporting Palestine.
Yeah, he's big on the ending genocide,
Yeah, and just doing a very classically kind of insurgent Democrat campaign, which is signing up all these volunteers. I think at one point they were saying 300 a day in Maine, and considering just over 10% of the state voted in the last Democratic primary. Actually just getting numbers on your side is a pretty big win. Yeah, and he's also actually said, I think interestingly, this is really the big Democrat fault line. As all the Senate seats, Chuck Schumer's trying to put in old governors, people who have got name recognition, who've been around, trying to get them into the Senate seats. But the the left of the party is trying really hard to get these young figures, squad adjacent, I guess you'd call them, figures into these seats. And Plattner has already said that he won't support Schumer as leader of the Senate if they regain control of the chamber.
Their affection is mutual.
So it seems, So it's very much battle lines drawn, but I think he's a very interesting candidate, and he's already garnered so much national attention because he is different. I think it's just interesting and exciting to not, have a contest of 80-year-olds for people to vote for.
Absolutely. I mean, as you can see from that video I played you, he's quite heavy on vibes, like, the system's rigged, billionaires are awful, etc. That's not my kind of thing, but he's not pitching at me. He's pitching at populists, and that is catnip for them. As you say, it's interesting the way he explicitly keeps saying things like, "I'm not left wing, I'm not liberal, I just believe in these issues," and he names them, and they're all the issues that he's supposed to see that Bernie Sanders loves. Like, he's a Sanders-esque. In fact, at times he seems to be running against Democrats. Like, it is actually kind of Tea Party-ish in a way, like left-wing Tea Party-ish, where he's running against Democrats as much as anyone. I mean, look at this tweet here. Nothing pisses me off more than getting a fundraising text from Democrats talking about how they're fighting fascism because it's such bullshit. We're not idiots. Everyone knows most of them aren't doing jack shit right now to fight back. People are being kidnapped into unmarked vans by masked police. There's a genocide happening in Palestine. Literal billionaires have taken over our government. And all Democrat leadership can do is send us another fundraising text. So that gives you a vibe of where he's coming from. And so I can see why Chuck Schumer doesn't like that.
And I mean, if he's working with Mamdani's people, it's it's never a copy and paste kind of thing. But you think that some of those kind of sentiments and the certain style that worked well for Mamdani, other people will be trying to replicate because it obviously has some currency.
Absolutely. He's also quite interesting when speaking about the military. As you said, he's got a complicated military record. He openly admits to suffering from PTSD after his military career, and he gets extremely passionate about veterans issues. It's the one area where I think he is super informed. I think at other times he's a bit copy-paste, but military issues, he's the real deal there. I think he's definitely going to win the primary. If I was Janet Mills, I'd stay well away. She hasn't said what she's going to be doing, but I think, I'd stay away if I was her. We'll see about that. I think definitely he's got a better chance of winning than she does in the general election. Certainly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like there's excitement about him, which there won't be about Janet Mills. And Susan Collins has just dispensed with all the conventional kind of candidates in the past. She makes Sherrod Brown look like a piker as far as cross-party support. She's hard to beat. And so I think that if for the Democrats to win Maine, they're going to need a big groundswell of support. And Plattner at least potentially has it, I would say. He might also explode.
I'm just really interested to see what the establishment wing of the Democrats do, because for someone like Schumer to maintain his authority and his legitimacy, he does need, these kind of older establishment candidates to still be running. And so, what is he promising them? Because the thing is, there's always an appointment you can be given, for taking one for the team. So I still wouldn't be surprised if Mills wound up running, even if it's, because you can always get off, you like going to Paris, we'll give you the, make you ambassador to, I don't know, Paris is a tough one, but, we'll give you Belgium or something next time we're in office. So there's all those sorts of deals being done. So, I mean, Chuck Schumer's been around for long enough and he's pretty wily. So I think he'll still be pushing his establishment candidates to do things that might make them look silly or be futile.
We will see. Okay, so let's say the Democrats. Now, I don't think Democrats are going to win all three of those seats. I think they'll win North Carolina. I think Maine is 50-50 if Plattner doesn't implode over the next 14 months. And he may well implode. He strikes me as an imploding type.
As North Carolina proved last election, you never know when old forum board posts are going to come back and haunt an insurgent candidate. So.
That is true. But yeah, I reckon he's a 50-50. I reckon Brown is maybe 20% chance. Maybe 20% chance.
Yeah.
But let's say for argument's sake, the Democrats win. They have a wave election. Like they end up not being ahead by 4, they end up being ahead by 6 or 7 because of ICE, because of authoritarian shit, because of all that kind of stuff, and they somehow get all 3 of those candidates through. Then it's a 50-50 Senate. It means for Democrats to win the Senate, they need one more state. And this is where we turn to what I would normally say would be an impossible situation. But in that context, where there's a wave election, 6 or 7 points or whatever, let's talk about Iowa. Let's talk about Iowa, which used to be one of the most swing states up to 20 years ago, and now is most definitely not. Trump won there by 13 points, right? But the last week...
know where you're going.
Yeah, but the last week or so has been quite interesting in Iowa. Firstly, generally speaking, Democrats do better in special elections, generally, because these days their supporter base are highly educated, and they're the guys who turn out in special elections. So in 2025 so far, across the country, they're running about 16 points ahead of Kamala Harris in special elections. Also, opposition parties do better in special elections as well, like whoever's not the president. Not unusual. But it's 5 to 6 points more overperformance than they enjoyed in special elections in 2017. So that gives you some context. Then last week, in Iowa's first Senate district, they did it again. There was a special election. In the seat, Trump won by 11 points in 2024. Democrat Caitlin Dray just won that seat by 11 points. So that's a 22-point turnaround. In fact, there's been 3 special elections in Iowa this year. The Democrats enjoyed 22-point, 24-point, and 26-point swings in those 3 seats. 2 of them have flipped blue. Now, I caution you, that's special elections. Don't think, oh, wow, 20-point swings. That might mean a 3 or 4 point swing in a national election in Iowa. Yeah, it's and then this week we hear that Joni Ernst is not going to be running for re-election. That wasn't a massive surprise. She's been on the nose a bit after that comment she made about a month ago about how we're all going to die eventually when she was asked about healthcare coverage in the big beautiful bill. That was an unfortunate choice of words. And then she doubled down on it like an idiot. But anyway, that really blew up in her face. She's been on the nose since. It does make this Senate race potentially more competitive, though. Potentially.
Oh, okay. Well, can I just say, because I thought you were going to go to Chuck Grassley is the Iowa senator. He's 92.
It's Joni Ernst who's up.
Yeah, I know. But the sitting senator who's not up for election, this one, he might die.
Well, there's that as well.
That's what I mean. I'm just looking up the list now, and the oldest senators. So it's Grassley is 92. Bernie Sanders is 84. Mitch McConnell, who's also not up this election, he's 83, and we know he's, in the same cryogenic chamber as the president right now.
Yes.
Jim Rist, I can't say his last name, Rich. Idaho is 82. Angus King. It's a geriatric chamber. I mean, they're the one group of people in America that have reliably good health care. But there's apparently a pretty heavy COVID surge at the moment. I genuinely think that you could just get a rogue election in somewhere unexpected just for the fact that all of these people are so old and don't know how to leave office.
Look, that is a fair call. All I'd say is that while you're absolutely right, Chuck Grassley could drop off the perch at any second. I mean, we know there is an Iowa election up. There's a Joni Ernst election, so there might be 2, but we know there's at least 1. And the Democrats are performing better there than you might think. And Ernst is gone. Not like Chuck Grassley might go, but she's...
Well, he's gone too, just in a different...
yes.
He's far gone.
Yeah, but there's a vacancy there. And we don't, and since it's an open seat, it's more vulnerable than it would otherwise be. And there's a lot of Democrats who are going for it, which is a sign that they think it's possible. Except for, in the last couple of weeks, they seem that they've started to clear the field for one particular candidate, who's this guy here, wheelchair basketballer Josh Turek.
I was born an underdog. 21 surgeries by the age of 12. Spina bifida, caused by my dad's exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. A kid wearing Goodwill hand-me-downs with the wrong color lunch ticket. I knew nothing would come easy, but I never doubted my right to the American dream. Sitting in my wheelchair, 9 years old, watching the Olympics, I dreamed of winning gold for my country too. In 2016, I did just that.
Guess who on the left side? Josh Turek.
Council Bluffs, Iowa native.
And then I did it again.
Back-to-back gold medals.
It wouldn't have been possible without the grit that made me shoot 1,000 shots every day. And I wouldn't have gotten that far without VA health coverage from my dad's service, free summer lunch programs when my parents were struggling, and the local AEA that made sure that I had access to a good education. When I was a kid, there was a senator from Iowa that made sure that the doors were open for kids like me. Now the senator from Iowa is just closing doors, taking away healthcare, making it harder for parents to feed their kids. All just to give tax breaks to billionaires. And her explanation?
Well, we all are going to die.
Well, I'm tired of Iowans being taken for granted. I wasn't supposed to be able to win a state house seat that Trump won twice. But I campaigned just like I played basketball, outworking everyone, pushing the hills, crawling the stairs, all just to have a conversation with everyday Iowans. Did not matter the party. We won that first race by just 6 votes. We won the next one by 5 points, in the reddest seat in Iowa held by a Democrat. Iowans deserve a senator who works for them again. So I'm running for U.S. Senate. A whole lot of folks are going to look at a guy like me and say, man, that is a real long shot. Well, in Iowa, we love an underdog. So if you are ready to push for change, join me.
What are your thoughts on Turek?
Compelling stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know much about his politics. Unlike Plattner, he's not leading with his ideology at all. He's all about his story. He has no experience, no national experience, that's for sure. He really could go down in flames. But you can see why the Democrats think he might be worth a shot, at the least. And my guess is if he doesn't screw this up early with a gaffe, he, Plattner, and Sherrod Brown are going to spearhead the 3 most expensive Senate races in history. I think there's going to be so much money in these 3 races because the Democrats are just going to have the tiniest sniff of maybe getting that Senate back against all the odds. I don't think it's going to happen.
Just sense in you can just sense with the national party of, for what it is, which isn't much when it's in opposition, that there is an emphasis on going for it.
Yeah.
Like there's very clearly a donor push underway. Just to correct myself from before, it's actually not Iowa that has to have a special election if someone dies, but Kentucky does.
Oh, okay.
It's not an automatic filling. So if Mitch McConnell, you're on, you're in the chamber. It's Kentucky, North Dakota, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin.
This is Kentucky where Beshear is the governor.
Yeah.
So a Democrat can win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I just wouldn't discount it. I think it just could be an extra thing to watch out for. And again, why it's probably, if you're a Democratic strategist, you'd say it's worth going for these Senates, really pushing for it.
Oh, they'll be pushing.
Yeah.
They will be pushing. Like I said, I think it's really unlikely, but not impossible. Not impossible. So I just want to flag it because this is going to be the next 18 months. That those 4 people I've just talked about are going to be the next 18 months. I'll tell you that right now.
Absolutely. Just quickly, if you want some live breaking news, Jerry Nadler's resigning.
Oh, okay.
or retiring ahead of the next election. So that's going to be interesting, considering he's held a fair bit of heft in the congressional party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very, very safe seat for the Democrats, so it's not going to make a difference in terms of the general like the midterms elections. But in terms of the actual, if the Democrats were to take the House, then that would be massive because Nadler would have been the person in charge of impeachments.
And he's a power broker. Apparently, they think he's got a staffer that he's going to try and install. But interesting times. I think we'll be hearing a lot more of this, and certainly in the Democratic Party, there is a real push coming in to freshen up their representatives. So I guess it must be the season for it.
Seems that way. Now, gerrymandering. When we last talked about gerrymandering, I said the Texas Democrats would be back within a week of the PEP, and 3 days later, they were back. This was their attempt to save face for the fact that they were backing down. Unofficial leader for the group, Gene Wu, said, "We killed the corrupt special session, withstood unprecedented surveillance and intimidation, and rallied Democrats nationwide to join this existential fight for fair representation, reshaping the entire 2026 landscape. We're returning to Texas more dangerous to Republicans' plans than when we left. Our return allows us to build the legal record necessary to defeat this racist map in court, take our message to communities across the state and country, and inspire legislators across the country how to fight these undemocratic redistricting schemes in their own state houses." Whatever. I don't condemn politicians for being blowhards. It's like condemning me for pursuing obscure 0 kilojoule drinks. It's just what we do. But obviously he's just saving face for them backing down, obviously. Texas passed their map, unsurprisingly, immediately. So that's 3 to 5 more Republican seats, depending on how what the broader election is like. According to the New York Times' upshot, that means the Dems need to go from winning by 0.2 of a point to win the House, like 0.2 of the total vote to win the House, to needing to win by 1.6 points to take the House. So it's still it's still quite easy. It doesn't make that much of a difference, right? It's still easy to do. They've got a 4-point margin right now, as I said, and it's probably going to blow out over time. But yeah, it makes a difference, just not. Only would really make the ultimate difference in a very close election. Which then leads us to California. Do you have anything to say about Texas before I go to California? No? Okay.
No.
All right. Gavin Newsom's trying to make it even easier for Democrats there. He's revealed his new map and he's moved ahead with his special election on November 4, asking whether California should temporarily replace their current map with this projected map. Republicans challenged the special election in court twice and they've lost both times. The new map would theoretically go from a 43-9 distribution, Democrats 43, Republicans 9, to 48-4. Democrats 48, Republicans 4, so 5 seats passing over to Democrats. I don't think it actually will be 5 seats. I think that's been exaggerated. I reckon, if we look at them, California 1 will go from 61% Trump to 54% Harris. Okay, that's a switch. California 3 goes from 50% Trump to 55% Harris. Probably a switch. California 22 goes from 52% Trump to 50% Trump. Sounds kind of borderline. California 41 goes from 52% Trump to 57% Harris. That's a switch. California 48 goes from 57% Trump to 52% Harris. That's a switch. So I reckon it could be 4 seats to the Democrats, but whatever. The biggest difference actually in the map is not the switches. It's the solidifying the Democrats, because when it's independently drawn, the people who independently draw electorates aren't trying to make safe seats for people. They're just drawing lines where they hang. Whereas this gerrymandered map has fortified 7 marginal blue seats to now be safe blue seats. So it stops the Republicans, in the case of a Republican wave, it stops them winning any of those seats back. That's what this really does. So that's 7 potential seats ripped away from Republicans. Texas couldn't do that in their gerrymander because their map is already gerrymandered. They're already safe seats. So they couldn't do that, but California can do that. The downside is this needs to be voted in on November, obviously. So Republicans could move in other states, which we'll get to in a second, before they know what's going to happen in California. States like Florida could retaliate to California before the votes even occurred. And so what happens if Republicans go nuts in response to California and then the vote doesn't get up? That'd be a huge own goal. And I say that because Politico had a poll a few weeks back where the new map only got 36% support. The wording of the poll was a bit dodgy, though. Governor Newsom has suggested returning congressional line-drawing authority back to the legislature, citing concerns that redistricting efforts in Republican states would give them a partisan advantage. Doesn't say it's temporary. Doesn't say it's in response to Texas. So it kind of puts his thumb on the scales a bit. Newsom's team had their own poll, an internal poll, so I don't know if you trust that. The question was asking about a voter initiative described as one that will adopt temporary congressional district maps under the condition that Texas or other states redistrict mid-decade. That polled 57% of likely voters supporting it, 35% opposed, according to Newsom, about his internal poll, if you believe him. That was up from 51% in July. Who knows? The upshot says if both Texas and California gerrymander, they project the Democrats would need to win the House vote by 0.3 of a point to win the House. So California would effectively neutralise the Texas situation completely. Do you have any thoughts about California before we move on to the other states?
No, just again with the polling, I'm just always pretty skeptical of, when people say something's important, and it does fit into, I guess what you were saying about the overall about, democracy and civil rights and those sorts of issues. I'm just very interested, I suppose, and kind of just generally skeptical of the translation of that to people's voting intentions. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it's one of those, I mean, what is like congressional approval rate? What is it now? It's probably about 3% or something.
It's not much.
Yeah. So I do wonder if it kind of gets lumped into the, they're all bastards anyway, kind of into that box. But yes, anyway, continue.
Okay, let's go to the red states because it obviously doesn't end with California, as I keep on saying. Missouri's holding a special session tomorrow to draw new maps. I knew this would happen. It looks like they're going to be going from a 6-2 map, so 6 Republicans, 2 Democrats, to a 7-1 map. So they take 1 more seat for Republicans. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe says it will ensure our districts and Constitution truly put Missouri values first. Yeah, that's what it'll do. Indiana. Trump and Vance have both been working on the state politicians in Indiana. Last week, Trump met with the state House Speaker and state Senate President. Vance met with 55 of the state House reps. They were quite unwilling to gerrymander before. Now it sounds like they're going to do it. It's a 7-2 map at the moment. They're hoping for an 8-1 map, so 1 more seat for Republicans. Then there's Ohio, which is legislatively compelled to update their boundaries by September 30. And they are very likely going to be doing it in a way that adds 2 red seats. So that's 4 more seats that are extremely likely to fall to the Republicans. According to the Upshot's projections, if Texas, California, Ohio, Missouri, Indiana all redistrict, then for the Democrats to win the House, they'll need to win the vote by 1.6 points. Again, back to where it was with when it was just Texas. So that's where we're at with all them. But don't forget Florida. Oh, do you have a comment to make about any of those states?
No, it just reminded me of the old aphorism. What is it? Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. Yeah. That's the one. There's certainly a lot of falling in line going on here. Although interestingly, actually, I saw an interesting poll from YouGov asking if California redraws its districts to give Democrats an advantage in the House of Representatives, would you support or oppose your state redrawing its boundaries to favour Republicans? And Republicans in the last 3 weeks went from 34% saying yes to 39% saying yes.
only 13, not even a majority of Republicans said you should gerrymander in response to California gerrymandering. Whereas when they asked the same question about whether they replaced California with Texas and asked Democrats said, 53% of Democrats said they would support redistricting in their own states to make up for it. So in actual fact, Democrats are more into the gerrymandering war than Republicans are, which I was surprised to see. So that's an example of the Democrats falling in line. Maybe the Democrats have been worked on for a bit longer because of the Texas controversy.
I was going to say, I think it's a much bigger issue in the liberal media than it is in the conservative media.
Yeah. But anyway, that was an interesting poll. I thought, how about that one? Florida. Now, they're further behind than the other states are at the moment. They're only just beginning to talk, but a lot of Florida politicians are making noises about redistricting. If the other three red states do it, I think it's going to create more momentum for them. I think they're going to do it. It's really up in the air how many seats they could gerrymander there, anywhere from between 2 and 5 seats. The Upshot has projected that if there is a 7-point, so 3-point, so they're saying 3 seats in Florida, they're projecting. If there is a 7-seat net increase for Republicans across Texas, California, Ohio, Missouri, Indiana, and Florida, then Democrats will need to win the vote by 2.3 points to win the House, which is an uphill climb, but far from impossible when you got a 4-point lead in August 2025. Also note, many of the gerrymandered Republican seats could backfire. A lot of them have Hispanics as the majority. And if Hispanics snap back to Democrats, Republicans are kind of assuming they got Hispanics in their pocket now. If they snap back to Democrats with all this ICE rubbish, that could hurt Republicans a lot. I still think there is a serious wave election on the cards because of ICE. But we'll see about that. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I might have mentioned this before, but just along the Texas border, and it is quite sort of different Hispanic populations that you are talking about in Texas and Florida. But I guess just in understanding how a minority group can really swing. Some of the turnarounds were like 50 points between 2016 and 2020 from voting for Hillary to being massively MAGA. And that was in an election that Trump lost. I probably shouldn't say that as a foreign visa holder in the US. That was stolen from the dear leader.
Yes.
But so there can be, pretty significant swings. And I think, if you were a Republican strategist in Florida, you'd have to be thinking that way, for sure. But at the same time, I mean, you were saying that, Florida Republicans have sort of been behind in starting to do this redistricting. I mean, if they want a Mar-a-Lago membership, they're going to get moving pretty quickly. And I don't say that lightly. I think it is important for a lot of those people to be rubbing shoulders, to be seen, in those Trump circles. So I suspect that they will probably get a move on pretty quickly unless someone influential enough is able to put the brakes on.
I think they will too. Finally, we should mention Utah. They might be throwing a seat Democrats' way because their state Supreme Court wants Utah to follow an independent commission. They're doing the opposite. And they have an extra Democratic seat according to the independent commission map. So that would help Democrats a little bit as well.
Yeah, Utah's always going to Utah. But what's interesting is young Mormons are really in the Democrat tent now.
Yeah.
There's quite a big swing among young people. So I think, it'll take a long time, but you never know, maybe one day Utah goes a bit purple.
That would be very, very welcome to the Democrats for something I'm going to be talking about in a second. I think the Senate and winning more states, I think should be their number one priority. But we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Talking about redistricting, I wanted to bring up Newsom's tweeting because the tweets are starting to evolve, or rather his press accounts. The press office accounts tweeting is starting to evolve. They're apparently alums of Kamala Harris's tweeting outfit, which, if you recall, made a bit of a splash for a while there. And until they were drowned out by the candidate herself. The tweets were originally just about the redistricting initiative. And I felt like they were basically Newsom making sure he raised as much publicity for the redistricting thing as possible. But they clearly struck a chord. And so then they just kept going. And then they just turned the entire account into a Trump mocking account. This, for example, was Newsom tweeting before the Putin summit. Donald is finished. He's no longer hot. First the hands, so tiny, and now me, Gavin C. Newsom, have taken away his step. Many are saying he can't even do the big stairs on Air Force One anymore. Uses the little baby stairs now. Sad. Tomorrow he's got his meeting with Putin in Russia. Nobody cares. All the television cameras are on me, America's favourite governor. Even low ratings Laura Ingraham edits the tapes. Can't stop talking about my beautiful maps. You're welcome for Liberation Day, America. Donnie J missed the deadline. Whoops. And now I run the show. Thank you for your attention to this matter, GCN. That was a dense tweet as far as combining all of Trump's shticks.
You've got a comedy background. Like you shouldn't try to like lump all your material into one bit, right?
Oh man,
that seems like a cardinal sin.
They got plenty of tweets out of this shtick. I mean, Trump's been going for a long time, so there's a lot to copy. They did originally make more of a splash amongst the right than the left, I reckon. The right hated them, and I think that's part of what made the Dems like them so much, seeing how much the right hated them. For instance, this was from Abigail Jackson, Trump's deputy press secretary. The all-caps tweets from Newsom's team are very weird and not at all funny, but I know some dweeb is sitting in they-them's office cackling to themselves, thinking they're a world-class comedian. Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, said, I'm all for appreciating crass humour. I love South Park. It's hilarious. But don't just be a loser copying the most powerful people in the world's style. I think they protested too much. Early on, a number of people didn't even seem to get that they were mockery, which I found quite funny. I mean, Chris Cuomo, I couldn't believe he didn't get this. He tweeted this out. All caps does not make a post more impressive. Being willing to defend what you put out on this dumpster fire site does. Thanks for the advice, Chris. On Fox News, Dana Perino got what he was doing, but she gave Newsom some advice.
For the last week, Gavin Newsom, why am I giving him advice? You have to stop it with the Twitter thing. I don't know where his wife is. If I were his wife, I would say, "What? You are making a fool of yourself. Stop it. Do not let your staff tweet. And if you're doing it yourself, put the phone away and start over. And if you really, he's got a big job as governor of California, but if he wants an even bigger job, he has to be a little bit more serious."
Yeah, like the president. And so, of course, the account then tweeted about Dana Perino, just like Trump would have. Dana Ding Dong Perino, never heard of her until today, is melting down because of me, Gavin C. Newsom. Fox hates that I'm America's most favourite governor, ratings king, saving America, while Trump can't even conquer the big stairs on Air Force One anymore. Trump has lost his step and Fox is losing it because when I type, America now wins. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I love that tweet. I do find these very funny. Gavin Newsom was finally asked about the tweets, and he did explain it seriously, just for the benefit of Chris Cuomo. Here you go, Chris.
What's going on with those posts on X that are clearly trolling the president? What? Can you just talk about that? Is that like a strategy?
I don't know. I hope it's a wake-up call to the President of the United States. I'm sort of following his example. If you've got issues with what I'm putting out, you sure as hell should have concerns about what he's putting out as president. So to the extent it's gotten some attention, I'm pleased. But I think the deeper question is, how have we allowed the normalization of his tweets through social posts over the course of the last many years to go without similar scrutiny and notice?
So that was obviously a prepared answer, but I think it's spot on. He's right. It's amazing that so many people have just accepted Trump's juvenile and demented tweeting for a decade. And, the account has just since then been going through all of Trump's greatest hits, one after another. They've recreated his Mount Rushmore obsession. They've recreated the Trump as king meme. They've recreated Trump being prayed over by angels. In this case, the angel was Hulk Hogan. They've recreated his Taylor Swift tweets. I think this one actually is my favourite of all the tweets. Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Kid Rock, he's no longer hot? GCN. And he's got all his followers whipping up Trump like AI as well. Like this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I got to say, I do prefer the more nuanced mockery, like the Dana Perino tweet, rather than the flat-out copying. But it certainly wins Newsom attention, and that's obviously the mission. What are your thoughts about it all?
Yeah, it was such a weird thing that Fox News got mad about it. And I was sort of wondering if it was like, if they've, I don't know, just got like viewers hooked up to like blood pressure monitors or something, and they just get so many spikes whenever they mention Gruesome Gavin that they just have to, get their audience base riled up. But yeah, there's a piece in Vanity Fair from Molly Jong-Fast the other day that they reckoned it can sort of be traced back to January when Newsom just kind of took Trump had tweeted out some misinformation about the bushfire, those horrible wildfires in Los Angeles, and that Newsom sort of immediately pushed back, sort of, in the rare Democrat thing of not like consulting a focus group first, and just sort of immediately and forcefully pushed back, and it garnered some attention. And so it sort of, that seemed to have lit the fuse, for want of a better word. I kind of find it annoying. Like, it's just, slightly annoying, slightly amusing. But I actually think it's a good strategy from Newsom, because it's not about speaking to Trump. It's about speaking to Democratic primary voters.
I 100% agree.
It's about name recognition, it's about energy, it's about funding, it's about social media army, that, people are sharing these, across platforms and having a giggle or saying, good on you for pushing back. And I mean, obviously, well, it's not for me to say that he's a shameless self-promoter as a neutral journalist, but I do actually think it's, for him specifically, it's not a bad strategy. Like, I think he has to get in early and establish his credentials. He's the straight white guy.
Yeah.
And he's the, very establishment. And that is just not, it's not going to be particularly popular for the next election, and for Democratic primary voters. So I think that his real thing is just to have to say, and once again, I don't think he objects to this a lot, but is to really say me, and establish himself as the front runner. It reminded me a bit, going back to my favorite person, Nixon. I mean, one of the things that Nixon did that was really clever when he was a freshman senator was that he was always making people who are more powerful than him have to debate him in public. And it gave him this legitimacy in this stage. So he was really good at goading like LBJ in the Senate into responding in like news conferences and Senate things to stuff that Nixon had said. And, it probably helped him, propel him to be vice president for Eisenhower. I mean, there was the Alger Hiss, and all the anti-communist stuff as well. But it's a pretty tried and tested strategy. And I think just, there is, I think, a lot of desire from Democratic primary voters to, to put up some opposition in one of these big blue states. When you see that the red states are taking the initiative, like in Texas gerrymandering, and there is a lot of outcry from Democratic rank and file saying, why don't we use one of our big blue states to push some Democratic style policies? And the one place that is actually doing that is California. They never gets up, but they do want, they are trying to there are people within the party in California always trying to introduce, statewide kind of universal healthcare, but they do have much better social security, healthcare programs and things like that. And there just is so much money and energy coming from California. So it does make sense if you're a Californian to take on a leadership role, especially, when it is, Chuck Schumer's and a lot of both East Coast people and, sort of older establishment Democrats who still very much have the reins of power of the party.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. I would add to it, not only is he, I agree that he has to make himself an inevitability to win the primary in 2028. I also agree that he's trying to communicate to Democrats. I think the one word you didn't use, which I would use, is he's trying to communicate that he's a fighter. A lot of people have said, why is he trying to take on Trump for? Like, he's not going to be up against Trump. Yeah, we know that, but he needs to show that he can take on the big guy as a means of proving, I'm your fighter. I will fight for you against anyone. Give me anyone, I'll fight. And so all this California stuff is trying, and the tweeting is building up fighting credentials. And it's clearly working, because have a look at J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, who was pretty quiet until recently. All of a sudden he started piping up, and he's started to talk tough as well. He's basically doing Newsom light. No, he's not tweeting, but he's starting to hold press conferences where he's been quite aggressive in a way that he wasn't before. And he's talking now about Illinois doing things to take on, as a big state, to try and take on the government as well, potentially. Like we may or may not get to the CDC. Illinois is potentially going to do something to work around the vaccines situation with RFK. And that's taking a page out of Newsom's book. So clearly it's working, because Pritzker thinks, I'm the other white guy. I've got to do this as well. And
he comes from the billionaire family, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, well, you'll probably get to it later on. I'm not sure if I'll still be here. I'll hopefully be asleep by then. But I mean, ICE is bringing the fight to him as well. So
yes, totally.
And again, as well, I think with Democratic constituency, there is a real sort of anger. It's like, why don't we fight this stuff? I think there really is such an appetite, again, among the people who vote in primaries to say, why aren't you taking these people on? So, I think it's just kind of going to be dominoes falling now. Yeah,
totally. And I should point out, CNN polling shows in 2017, 74% of Democrats wanted Democrat leaders to work with the GOP. Now only 42% do. 57% want their leaders to stop the GOP. Newsom is trying to appeal to those people. Also, another aspect, tweets keep him in the conversation without being boring or using his powder too early. Like, normally politicians have to announce a big policy or something to get attention. He's not announcing any policies here. He's just trolling, and he's getting more attention than he would get if he announced policy. So he's keeping his powder dry. He's not even running yet. He's just trolling, and it's working. It's having the same effect. They're also making him seem fun instead of being like a James Spader character from a 1980s movie, which is what he resembles with his slick back hair and his little sneer. So that's, so I think these tweets work for him. Oh, the other thing I've noticed is that the tweets are changing, because I was wondering what's going to happen when it gets a bit boring, and they are starting to change now. He's not doing it all the time anymore, the Trump thing. He just does it every now and then. As the joke began to wear thin, he started to thin them out a bit. But now he only dispenses the technique when he wants to make sure a specific point gets out into the public. So I'll give you an example. This week, Gavin Newsom wanted to take on Trump about his crime crackdown, and he made this point about Republican hypocrisy on crime.
Just consider Speaker Johnson's state and district. Just look at the murder rate. That's nearly 4 times higher than California's. In Louisiana, it's Speaker Johnson, 4x higher. I'm just offering, again, you've not seen this on Fox News, so President may not be familiar with these facts. So I want to present some facts to the President of the United States, and imagine this is alarming to the President to learn these facts, particularly Speaker Johnson, who's been such a strong partner and ally in these efforts. So the carnage in Louisiana is well defined.
Mike Johnson was then asked about this on Fox News, and he gave this response.
Again, Gavin Newsom will do anything for attention. He can name drop me all he wants. He needs to go and govern his state and not be engaging in all of this. Look, we have crime in cities all across America, and we're against that everywhere, and we need to bring policies to bear. My hometown of Shreveport has done a great job of reducing crime gradually, but we've got to address it everywhere that it rears its ugly head. And I think every major city in the country, the residents of those cities, are open to that.
Which is a real non-response. Newsom sensed he was on a winner, so out comes the Trump tweet. Mike Little Man Johnson can't even answer a basic question. Why is Louisiana's homicide rate nearly 4 times higher than California's? Louisiana is a failed state. And then the story gets more news coverage. I think that's a clever use of the Trump tweet. So he's using Trump tweets as an attention grabber for the areas he wants to focus on, which is ironically how Trump uses Trump tweets as well. But what this account is starting to do is use all caps tweets in a non-Trumpian way. They're kind of moving on from the joke. For instance, this was after the Intel deal was announced and people were calling it socialism. In all caps, all hail Chairman Trump with his glorious 10% purchase of Intel. The Socialist Republic of America enters a bold new era of government-run business. So that's not very Trumpy. The style of sarcasm is changing. And interestingly, on Gavin Newsom's private account, you mentioned back in January when he clapped back at Trump's misinformation about the fires. One of the things that Trump likes to talk about is switching on the water from Canada and the water that was going to flow into the ocean, but then he turned the valve. After about the 5 trillionth time, they use that strange talking point.
So we send hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day into the Pacific Ocean. They turn a valve, and the valve heads out, and we turn the valve back. I actually had to do it using force. We turned the valve back, and now they have water, but not as much as they should have, because they should, and I'm telling Gavin Newsom by this conversation right now, turn the rest of the water on.
So Newsom tweeted out that clip and replied by asking Grok, do people with dementia repeat false things over and over again? And then he included Grok's response. Now, I hate troll tweeting being a political skill in 2025. But God, I think Newsom's really good at it. I mean, do you think someone can win the nomination based on their tweets, Elle?
Well, someone already has. I mean,
I suppose
Trump did.
I suppose you're right. Yeah.
Whenever someone is the front runner, they never when was the last Democratic front runner that won a primary, like a presidential? I really can't think off the top of my head.
Hillary Clinton, 2016.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, she was that was kind of and that was, handed to her as well by Obama telling Biden to get out of her lane.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think Biden probably would have beaten her.
Yeah.
So, but it's just not very often. So you just don't know, what it is that seems to propel, and the particular circumstances at the time. So it's very hard to say. But yeah, it seems like a smart enough strategy, and he's obviously got some political acumen, or at least people around him that do, to go out on this strategy. And like you said, it is kind of annoying, but it's kind of good. They do have the cadence and the grammar and all those kind of things right. And I mean, it just also is a thing, everyone's got that thing of Trump that you say. We are all in his world. We all speak like him. What was that thing the other week? Spa or not spa? That just is rattling around in my head. Many such cases. Yes. Many people are saying this. Yes. I'll keep drinking that garbage. All of those. Well, people do think and talk a little bit like him, so it's not completely far-fetched. And yeah, it's working. We are all talking about Gavin Newsom, and again, I think it's just a structural flaw that he's exploiting in the American system, that there is no real leader of the opposition. I mean, nominally, I guess you'd say it's Hakeem Jeffries, but he's not doing a lot.
No.
Chuck Schumer is, just trying to go on his book tour and, sort of sunset cruise. There is a space for an effective leader of an opposition.
For what it's worth, back in June, Emerson polling had Buttigieg leading Democrats for 2028, 16%, Harris on 13%, Newsom on 12%. Now, in August, Newsom has gone from 12% to 25%. Buttigieg is still on 16%, and Harris has dropped from 13 to 11%. It's got to be because of his tweeting, because that poll was after the LA riot or LA protest. Mm-hmm. So nothing else has happened except for the tweeting. So so it's working as far as the Democrats go.
And like you sort of said, it gives him an opportunity to then go and do like a soundbite, or then he's buying himself free media coverage because they say, he tweeted this today, and then you're putting a tweet on the television screen isn't very compelling. So then they want to cross to something that Gavin Newsom says, and then he's got the soundbite ready and all of that. So it's a good strategy. And, people have to think more, like having a compelling media strategy rather than just talking about endless money and these stupid ads that no one really watches. It is actually having a smart, to get, earned media. It's, what Trump did, and it's worked. So it's clear that people need to, think more creatively in that area.
Meanwhile, someone who it seems is not going to be participating in 2026 or 2028 is Elon Musk, who spoke about this America party, but things have changed a bit, Elle.
They have. So it was reported in the Wall Street Journal that he has put the brakes on the party, which he denied, of course. But it was reported, which sounds pretty credible, that he didn't want to tarnish his relationship with JD Vance, who he is keen on having in his pocket for 2028. And he's sort of there's been other reports that he wants to sort of really fund Vance and have him as his guy, and get his the head of NASA or something that it seems like Trump first fell out with Musk over, to get his SpaceX guy onto to lead NASA or whatever. I think no one ever thought the party was going anywhere for a number of reasons. And I don't know if you've ever seen, like, people do supercuts of Elon talking every year at like the Tesla. I'm trying to think of the word, when they kind of do the stage show that all the tech companies do.
Yeah.
And every year for about 10 years of him saying that, like, by this year we're going to have self-driving cars. And just saying over and over again. And it's what he does. He always talks up things and then doesn't deliver. And it's not unique to him, but it's certainly something he does a lot. But what I was always thinking about with this party, which I never really sort of talked about that much, but I just, and it's something I think we can see a parallel with in Australia, that it was just never going anywhere because it was built around his personality, and it's never going to hold. And it's like we see all the time in Australia, with like One Nation or Katter or Clive Palmer. They always get like some ex-footballer in, who can pick up a seat on sort of name recognition and a bit of base populism. And then they get down to Canberra and they just, get asked about an issue and they say what they think, and they get, absolutely squashed like a bug. And with Elon, it would be like that times 1,000. You think anyone in his party that speaks out and he doesn't agree with, that he's going to let them, speak their mind or vote in a certain way. And it's just such an incoherent political idea. What are they actually standing for? They might have, might like low tax and be pro-tech, but there's a whole raft of other social issues that, just to start, you're probably going to have some really hardcore anti-abortion people, you're going to have some really hardcore pro-abortion people. And not to mention the kinds of people you get the sense he'd be likely to recruit. You're going to get your age of consent libertarians, your seasteaders. There's going to be a lot of freaks that come out of the woodwork, as often do for these kind of parties. So I just think for every reason, it was, even if he did get it off the ground, and really decide to target some seats and, do a strategy of holding a balance of power, which isn't entirely insane. he doesn't have the temperament, the ability to build coalitions, the platform policy. It's just Elon, and you would see it implode so quickly.
I 100% agree. I think it was very doable by the right person. He's not the right person. He's just not the right. If you had the right person with the same money behind them that Elon Musk has, then yeah, I think a clever strategy could be employed to build a party that, as you say, pursues a swing state or swing seat strategy and doesn't even necessarily try to win a single seat, just tries to influence the seats that the people who are running in those seats to change their policies to be whatever you want it to be. That could definitely happen with enough money and pressure. But Elon is not, he doesn't have the patience. He doesn't have the nous, and he doesn't have the restraint that would be required to do that. And if he just makes it all about him. You're absolutely right. And the other thing I'd add is, of all the people to make their party all about them, Elon is the worst one. And the reason for that is because he can't...
What's your natal policy? Like, everyone should have like 60 children born in test tubes.
I wasn't even talking
50
about him,
different women.
Yeah, I wasn't even talking about him being a weirdo. But there is that as well. What I was talking about is the fact that he himself can't run for president. It's like, so normally when there's a party that's all about an individual, they're just, even if they never run themselves, there's just always that insinuation, well, I might run. That's why you care. Because am I going to run? Am I not going to run? But he can't do that. He can't run. And so it just removes an essential element of a cult of personality that that person is never going anywhere themselves. And it's just so I think his temperament is exactly wrong for the task at hand, even though I think the task at hand was entirely achievable. But so I'm not surprised at all. That's going nowhere.
That's a really great point you make. I think also it's just such an easy, if you did get a reasonable candidate somewhere, charismatic, name recognition, something like that, running for his party that had a shot, the campaign ads against them just write themselves. It's just evil caricature Elon, with the marionettes, puppets, because it is so obviously a party built around him and his wealth and his success and his personality that no candidate could ever, it's just such an easy campaign against them. You could just see them, if they speak out against something, because it's just all gotcha questions, trying to get them to say something that Elon then says, no, that's actually not what we believe. It just falls apart before it's even off the ground.
Can I ask you, we're only just going to hang around the 2026 stuff till you go, Elle, because it's not enough time to start a new topic. But just in this area, I'm going to speak a little bit about the mail-in voting situation with Trump after you're gone. But in the last couple of days, he came out with a new one about voter ID, where he was demanding that voter ID must be part of every single vote, no exceptions. I'll be doing an executive order to that end. Now, as I'm going to explain, he has no power to do this, right? He has no power to control elections. The law is extremely clear that elections are controlled by states, and Congress can come over the top. The president can't do jack squat with an executive order. He just can't. But leaving that aside, I want to ask you, as someone who lives in America, who associates with these people, if a government offered free voter ID to anyone who wanted it, like a free photo ID card, then maybe they linked it to their Social Security or something like that. So that you have a photo ID / Social Security card. Is there anything wrong with that? What's with the resistance? I mean, I get that certain states are concerned that certain people will miss out, that the poor will have trouble getting their ID, or students, or women, or or black people, or various minority groups. But if you're handing these cards out to people for free, what's the problem with that? Because I feel like this issue has just been hanging around forever, and I know that a lot of Democrats are suspicious that this is all about just trying to win elections. But I genuinely think that people who watch Fox News are convinced that without voter ID, there's widespread fraud. They actually believe that. And even though they're wrong, I think factually, I don't understand what the problem is with just having voter ID. Lots of places do. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's all of the standard arguments that you said about why it is why people object to it. I think it's really hard, especially coming from Australia, to understand just how difficult American bureaucracy is. I mean, just filing your taxes here, and if the IRS is listening, what a wonderful job they do. It is the bureaucracy here is so difficult, and it's like the process of requiring of any state interaction is the punishment. I mean, just going to get your driver's license at a DMV, there's all sorts of private companies you can go through, so you don't have to be in the queue and everything. Unfortunately, for various reasons of my particular status, I have to go to the DMV, which can involve waiting for several days. And often just being sent away. And it is so difficult dealing with American bureaucracy that, I mean, firstly, it's underfunded, so you don't really trust it. Secondly, the states that run it, again, I mean, Jeff Landry or Ron DeSantis or Abbott in Texas, this incentive for them to not do it properly, without having an electoral commission or something independent. I think, there's a lack of trust. There's a lot of mobility. In the United States, it would be difficult, people moving across state lines. I guess in a dream scenario, you'd have some sort of when you turn the power on or something like that, you automatically get your new card. But I think American bureaucracy is just so difficult that people also wouldn't trust it. I don't think it would work. I think it's just even the fact of you get out this card for most people every 4 years. You're going to lose it. Also, just in general, a huge amount of Americans don't have passports. Trusting ID that isn't really necessary for your everyday life, like a driver's license. I just think there's sort of all sorts of structural and cultural issues, as well as the ethical ones. Just why it wouldn't fly.
So you're in Louisiana, which is one of the 36 states that currently require voter ID on election day. There are 25 that require photo ID. Is that one of the photo ID countries? Is that states?
I quite deliberately don't go near polling booths.
Okay, fair enough.
On the day, just because, there have been a lot of ice sweeps and things like that through the city. So I'm not actually sure. It probably is, just being a poor red state.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so do you see in Louisiana people being screwed over by the photo ID situation?
Yeah, I mean, you would. And again, there is just huge fear in we've got a huge Honduran population here. I imagine, and there are quite a few, certainly undocumented people. I imagine there are some people just for various reasons, even if they are here legally, not wanting to stick their head up, especially in the current climate. Louisiana requires photo ID.
Yeah. Can I ask you as well, you just raised it now. I'm not sure I'm going to get to ICE during this one. I might save it for Dave. But, you mentioned ICE in passing. You are an immigrant in America at the moment. Do you feel does it make you nervous? What's going on? Or do you feel safe? Do you feel safe in New Orleans?
Yeah, I know that there definitely are. I mean, things go around on like Instagram and stuff all the time here. There are often ICE patrols in certain parts of the city, and people will send, rumors on social media to me, or things just go around in the community here. I am concerned for some reasons. I just probably for personal reasons I won't go into it too much. But I mean, coming through the country and stuff can be a little hectic at times. Just for various reasons I won't talk too much about it at the moment.
Okay, I entirely understand.
I don't have the vanity to think that some ICE agents sitting here listening to our 2.5 of the PEP podcast. But look, it definitely is scary. I've got a good Canadian friend here who's been on a marriage green card that she just hasn't converted for 10 years, who's worked and paid taxes and everything here for I think 15 years. And she's scared to reapply for her green card at the moment in the event that it gets turned down. So the climate of fear is certainly real. And that's kind of part of the point, I think.
And just so you know, the entirety of ICE are peppers, so it is wise for you to be concerned. Elle, I'm going to let you go to sleep because it's ticking over to your bedtime.
I'm going to go rock in a dark corner for a while, just sit in silence and
sorry to leave you on that nightmarish note just when you're going to sleep.
No, it's all good. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always, and love to all the peppers.
Thanks for stepping in, Elle. I really appreciate it. Till next time, stay peppy.
Anytime, Diamond. You're right, you're Diamond.
That means I'm about to die. Everyone who follows PEP is probably aware of that. Thanks, Elle.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
I'll see you after the white flash. Welcome to the other side of the white flash. This is Chaz Unleashed with Lockie.
Hello, Peppers.
Hello there, Lockie. Now, I was right in the middle about talking about Trump and election regulations there with Elle. We just talked about voter ID, and I flagged that this kind of related to the mail-in voting element as well. We have talked about this a little bit on Planet America, but I want to talk about it a little bit more here. For those who don't remember, fair elections enthusiast Vladimir Putin got Trump very excited about banning mail-in voting. Supposedly for 2026, Trump tweeted out, "I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. We're now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. All others gave it up because of the massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them, for the good of our country, to do. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America." Drink, 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 drink. Very important. Got the double. The thank you for your attention to this matter and Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
I'm glad he included his job title.
Yeah, that's official right there.
Yeah.
That's as official as it gets. So first of all, obviously, anyone living in Australia knows that it's not true that only America does mail-in voting. Australia does as well. Russia does as well, by the way. Putin. In fact, as of October 2024, 34 countries, according to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, do mail-in voting. 12 countries allow every voter to vote by mail. Now, I did flag the law before with voter ID. I'll just back over now with the actual law. The Constitution says quite clearly, the times, places and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the place of choosing senators. So, the manner of holding elections, i.e. whether to have mail-in voting or not, or voter ID, or any of these regulations, shall be prescribed in each state by the state legislature, full stop. Sometimes Congress shall make or alter such regulations, except in the case of choosing senators, Congress can. So everyone has a say except the president. And Trump should know that from the 2 federal courts that struck down his last executive order trying to control elections back in March. That was the Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections executive order, which is basically bupkis now. So yes, so that's the law. And by the way, not for nothing, his argument, remember the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. That's a scary statement.
Doesn't quite add up.
Yeah, it's like he's saying the states are an agent for him, essentially.
During an election.
Yeah, like they're his personal vessel. Like it's an intoxicating mix that you only get from a Trump tweet of hubris, autocracy, and incompetence. It's amazing. Oh, what a nice little bouquet.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom's not quite there yet.
He's working on it, though. We've moved on, Lockie, from the unitary executive theory to the unitary government theory.
Yeah.
Where the entire government is just one person. Yes. Obviously, that's 100% unconstitutional and wrong. All right, so what I want to, I have talked a lot about everything I've just said, but I'm just recapping it for you all. Right. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to give him any bar of this. Don't worry about that. What I'd like to talk about now, though, is reality. Because every single time I do this, the law says this, the law says that, and I can just feel the eyes rolling at home going, who gives a shit about the law? Why do you keep on talking about the law, Chaz? Don't you know we live in reality where the law doesn't count anymore?
There are comments who've started their own drinking game based on precisely that observation.
There you go. Well, here's a new one for you. I'm going to talk about reality. Let's talk about the 2 ways that Trump actually works when he ignores the law and he wants something done. Could he bully his way into making this happen, Lockie? 1, this is how Trump bullies people. He fires and he intimidates government workers into doing what he wants, whether it's the law or not.
Yeah.
That's one way. That's not going to work. I'll tell you why it's not going to work. Because there are no federal workers involved in elections. They're just state workers. He's got no one to fire.
Right.
Justin Levitt from La Jolla Law School, I thought, had a quite memorable quote about this one. I like this. He said, quote, "The president passing an executive order that purports to tell state election officials how to do their jobs is the same as me writing a note to a state election official on a Burger King receipt." Well, that was good.
That is good.
The second way he bullies people into doing things that have nothing to do with the law is he withholds funding to the state.
Ooh.
And he blackmails them.
Right.
He says, if you don't do X,
then you're not getting your stadium.
You're not getting, not just your stadium, you're not getting anything.
Yeah, right.
You're not getting tens of billions of dollars. But remember, for that to be, I am going to say legal here, but the Supreme Court has upheld this. Remember, for the Supreme Court to put up with this shit, it has to be vaguely related, at least, to the topic area that you're withholding funds about. You can't just be going, well, if you don't say have voter ID, I'm going to withdraw the army from your lands and I won't defend it anymore, and you can get taken over by Japan or something. Yeah, you can't do that. In this case, it's involving elections, so you have to withdraw money in an election capacity. The federal government allocates almost no money at all for elections to the states. It's all state done, state based. So they've got basically no leverage over the states at all in this area. So I can't see this working. Famous last words, but I don't think it's going to work for mail-in voting. I don't think it's going to work for voter ID.
Not legally.
Drink. Here's where it gets interesting, though. I'm not even sure that Republicans want Trump to win here. because Republicans erased a lot of the advantage Democrats enjoyed in mail-in voting back in 2024. They beat Democrats by 8 points in mail-in voting in Arizona.
Yeah, right.
They also beat Democrats in mail-in voting in North Carolina. They were hitting the swing states. Right? They put a lot of money. They put a door-knocking campaign into this. And now Trump's screwing them over. They especially don't want him undermining mail-in voters amongst their supporters when they know it's going to stay legal. They know it's going to be there, and Trump is going to piss all over the area so that Republicans don't do mail-in voting and screw them over. They really don't want that. But the biggest reason why Republicans are going to hate this is because mail-in voting now is increasingly becoming a Republican thing. Trump is about 15 years behind his cliches, as always. He lives in the 80s and 90s. He's so far behind his cliches. He lives in the period when Democratic voters were unreliable voters who you needed to basically shove the voting form into their hands to get them to fill it out. Now it's not like that. Now, Democrats are the reliable voters. They're the special election voters. They're the midterms voters.
Yeah.
They're the ones who they'll crawl over broken glass to vote. They don't need mail-in voting. If you get rid of mail-in voting, Democrats are going to lose very few voters. The person who owns unreliable voters is Donald Trump himself. He owns these guys. And it does not suit him at all to make it harder for people to vote. He's just losing his own voters. And when Donald Trump is no longer on the ballot, either in 2026 or 2028, it's going to make it even harder because those guys, the MAGA guys, they might come out for Trump. They're not coming out for J.D. Vance. No chance. Or Marco Rubio. So they want to make it as easy as possible to get voters out. So he's really not thinking this through. They don't mail-in voting is perfect for low propensity voters. Also, you know the other group whose mail-in voting is great for? Rural voters.
Okay.
People live in the middle of nowhere who have to travel halfway across the state to vote in possibly inclement weather. That is a Republican voter. That is their base, right? Make it easier for them to vote.
Cut off the base, sure.
Yeah, so if I was a cynical Democrat, I'd say, yeah, man, get rid of mail-in voting because I don't think it would hurt Democrats too much this time. It will help Democrats actively more every 2 years from then on. But yeah.
Just admit to rigging it. Yeah. You caught us. Take it away.
But anyway, as someone who actually believes in democracy, I think voting's good. So I don't want him to do that. I want to make it easy to vote, even if it helps his people. Anyway, and the bottom line is it's all bullshit. 50 states have mail-in voting. 36 allow all citizens to vote by mail. 14 limit absentee ballots to those with a valid excuse, such as disability or expected absence from the state on election day. 30.3% of voters in 2024 were mail-in voters, compared to 37% who voted in person on the day and 35% who voted in person early.
Right.
Trump's not going to convince all 50 states to change their ways with an executive order. It's not going to happen. And you can tell he knows that because he's starting to back away in a dignified manner. Instead, he's conflating mail-in voting now with absentee voting. I mean, they're basically the same thing. Absentee voting is just mail-in voting with conditions. But it's just a question of what conditions you place on the mail-in voting. But now Trump's tweeting out things like, no mail-in voting except for those that are very ill and the faraway military. That's mail-in voting. But yeah, the reason he's doing that is because Democrats have started bashing him for trying to exclude the military from voting because it's such an
easy win for them.
Yeah, it's an easy talking point for them, exactly. And that's a bad faith critique. Obviously, Trump was never going to stop the military from voting.
Yeah.
But he set them up for that attack with his stupid policy. So he's got no one to blame but himself. But anyway, the fact is, it's just, he's already backing away. It's not going to happen. And just a little aside, the Heritage Foundation has identified 378 cases of fraudulent use of absentee ballots in all 50 states in the last 38 years. 378 cases. And they're trying, Lockie, They're really
Sorry,
trying.
378 individual votes.
Yes. Yes. In 38 years, Lockie. That's 10 per year.
It's not even 10 per
Yeah, that's right. Not quite 10 per year. That's what he's talking about. But yeah.
That's some Lockie the Lackey level research going on there.
You're much better than that. Okay, let's move on to Epstein. We haven't talked about this for a while, but one thing hasn't changed since we haven't talked about it, and that is Trump is not winning any friends on this topic. 14%, according to Pew, trust what Trump is saying about the government investigation into Epstein a great deal or a fair amount. 14%.
Jeez.
How many Republicans? That's the question. What percentage of Republicans do you think trust what Trump is saying about the government investigation into Epstein a great deal or a fair amount?
I'm trying to remember what it was before. It was something like 30, mid-30s before still. I'm going to assume it's only gone down to 30.
That's not bad. That's really good, actually, Lockie. That's the Lackey level research there. 27% of Republicans.
Okay, I'll take that.
Well
I'll take
done.
that.
Trust what Trump's saying about the government investigation into Epstein a great deal or a fair amount. 63% trust him not too much or not at all. That's overall, not Republicans. 38% of Republicans trust him not too much or not at all.
Wow.
In fact, it's a wedge issue for Republicans now. 53% of Republicans disapprove of how Trump is handling the Epstein issue, with 18% strongly disapproving. Yeah, and Democrats, they don't mind sticking a knife in either. Like, they know they've got a wedge issue here, and they are enjoying it. I got an ad for you from a progressive activist group. Now, I was going to describe for those who are listening rather than watching. I know I ran a whole bunch of Newsom tweets before that were purely visual, going like this.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
And more importantly, sorry, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, terrible podcast technique. Bill would have detested that. We will feature in the next article, bitching about podcast. But I just couldn't describe them. It would have taken forever. But in this case, I'll describe for you what you're about to hear. It starts with a girl sleeping until she's woken up by a guy in a cliched Republican suit. You know, the red tie uniform.
You're coming with me.
Who are you? Get away from me.
I'm your Republican congressman. I'm protecting the president so nothing gets out from the Epstein files.
Please. I won't say anything, I promise.
I don't care. Now be a good girl. We're going back to the island.
And it ends there with, what is Trump hiding? Release all the Epstein files. That one, that's going to sting. I'll leave a mark, that one.
It's good.
Now, the last time we spoke about Ghislaine Maxwell, though, let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. She's really the feature of the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We did begin talking about her, and then it moved on after us. We mentioned that she was going to have an interview with Todd Blanche. In fact, I think we mentioned that she had the interview with Todd Blanche. Well, the interview's been released since then.
Okay.
Have you listened to any of it?
I have not, no. Except for what you put on Planet.
Yeah, look, I've listened to a bit of it. It's hard listening, to be honest, just because it goes forever. She speaks very slowly. She has a lovely accent. But I've skimmed through probably, I'd say, 200 pages of the transcript. There's about 350 pages of transcript. Right. Anyway.
Good effort.
I don't want to go through so much detail because, honestly, it's propaganda. It just reeks of propaganda. It's designed to proclaim her innocence, basically. On the there's a lot of her just exculpating herself. On the allegations that Epstein abused underage girls, she said, I never saw that with him at all. And I'm not saying Mr. Epstein did not do those things. I don't feel comfortable saying that today, given what I now know to be true. But I never, ever saw any man doing something inappropriate with a woman of any age. I never saw inappropriate habits. Now, somebody's inappropriate in mine may be different.
Who was it that called her, like, the biggest perjurer in the world?
I've forgotten.
Someone said that she just didn't say anything that was true. And we can't trust a single word of her testimony.
She is quite a perjurer, there's no doubt. As for underage girls, she says, I can categorically state that had any child said to me that they were 14, 15, 16, I would never have permitted such a thing. She said she'd never seen anyone of any age, under any form of duress or looking uncomfortable or in any way distressed. She said that she'd never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago, despite Virginia Giuffre saying she had been recruited by Maxwell in 2000. In fact, everything I just told you has been directly contradicted by victims. Okay, directly. So
keeping up that strike rate, Ghislaine.
Yes. She said that her and Epstein weren't even a close team. Another thing is that everyone puts us together like a monolith. He literally had a separate life from me. I literally had a separate life from him. Well, no one thinks that you shared the same life. We just thought that you were working together. Anyway, my point is, there's a lot of bullshit here. And so I don't think we should spend too long on it. Cool. Especially also, it took about 5 seconds for people to catch her out in a mistruth. Number one, she said she never recalled seeing Trump in Epstein's house. The internet found in like 5 seconds that on 25th of April 2003, there was a report of dinner at Epstein's house hosted by Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. Dinner guests include Donald Trump. There you go, QED. She also said she personally fitted out Epstein's house so she knew for a fact there was no wiring for cameras in the walls. She said there's no cameras in there. There was no wiring for cameras. It was impossible. And yet, once again, just about immediately, people showed photos showing the cameras in his house. They go, look, there's cameras right there. So she's lying. Also, so yet nothing from her.
No.
Todd Blanche seemed to be helping Trump as much as he possibly could, of course. I know you're shocked. Like a real DOJ interviewer would be probing all the corners of her story to see what they could find, right? Let me give you an example of the kind of thing that Blanche just plodded on with.
Okay.
This is Maxwell talking about how Epstein's friends weren't just coming over for sex, is what she said. But did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there's no way this cast of characters, of which is extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers, and would be with him if he was a creep, or because they want sexual favours. A man wants sexual favours, he'll find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. Now, did some? Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Todd Blanche then follows up with, so when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage? Ghislaine Maxwell says, I want to say 2007. And it goes on. So she said flat out, some members of your cabinet who you value as your co-workers were chumming around with Epstein, and he didn't ask who.
Oh, it's completely unrelated. Why would you ask that?
He thought the natural question was, the natural follow-up to that, to saying some of the cabinet were palling around with Epstein in his house. He thought the natural follow-up was, so when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when you got a massage?
That's so...
He just moved on.
It's so disappointingly obvious and... it's just crap.
Yeah, it is. It is. This is why I'm not going to spend too long, as I keep on spending time on it. As I say, she was super positive about Trump. I need to summarize it before I dismiss it. When asked if she ever saw Trump doing anything improper, she said absolutely never in any context. She also said Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me. And I just want to say that I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now, and I like him. I've always liked him. So that's the sum and substance of my entire relationship with him. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects. And that's how we know she's lying. He was a gentleman in all respects? Donald Trump?
I think that statement from her should have ended with, thank you for your attention to this matter.
It should have. And then a healthy drink. But yeah, to be fair to her, Trump wouldn't have wanted her to be super positive about the Clintons, and she was positive about them as well. The one thing that Blanche was interested in talking about was the Clintons. He brought up Bill Clinton at least 10 times. And she battled down every single time. He's kept on doing it. So she's
hedged her bets. That's great.
Yeah. You never know.
You can get a pardon from the next president, if not this one.
Go be careful about these things. On Bill Clinton, she said, so they spent time on the plane together. I don't believe there was ever a massage on the plane. So that would have been the only time that I think President Clinton could have even received a massage. And he didn't, because I was there. In fact, she said, I don't believe there's any way that he would have gone to the island had I not been there, because I don't believe he had an independent friendship, if you will, with Epstein. As in she's saying, had she not been there, she's saying he didn't go to the island. She's saying she didn't go with her, and he wouldn't go without her because he wasn't friends with Epstein.
And he wouldn't go to the island.
Exactly, because he's a perfect gentleman, like Trump. She said she saw no warmth between Clinton and Epstein, saying he was just a rich guy with a plane. I thought it was an honour and a privilege to be part of something so amazing and to have an opportunity to spend time with a man that I found extraordinary, truly extraordinary. And please, I don't mean it any other way other than as a former fantastic ex-president. And she also said that she was unaware of any masseuses from Mar-a-Lago ever even giving Epstein a private massage. That's definitely contradicted by testimony. I do not believe he died by suicide, she said, but she had no idea who killed him. And she said there's no list. She said, I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it. I never imagined it. I never imagined it. It's quite exhaustive. Democratic House member Robert Garcia, not impressed, he said.
And the person conducting that interview was Donald Trump's former personal lawyer. Give me a break. We should believe nothing that this woman says. And it's also real interesting that a lot of Republicans today are somehow uplifting this interview as a moment of disclosure, when the Oversight Committee, Democrats and Republicans, have been asking for Ghislaine Maxwell to actually be deposed, to actually be in front of tough folks asking her real questions about the files, about her relationships. And that, of course, has been denied and pushed back by James Comer, because he doesn't want real questions being asked of Ghislaine Maxwell. Instead, they want to continue this cover-up where she essentially gets softball questions from Trump's Department of Justice, his personal lawyer, and then on top of all that, gets moved to a different facility, so she's in much softer conditions. So,
yeah, let's talk about those conditions, shall we, Lockie? After the interview, Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred from a low-security Florida prison to an even lower minimum security camp. They don't even call it a prison.
Just a camp.
When they stop calling them prisons and start calling them camps, it's pretty bloody low security in Texas. These facilities, these camps, don't even necessarily have fencing.
Wow.
It's a camp.
It's a camp.
Yeah, they got limited fencing, if any. So that sounds nice. What makes it strange, though, is she's serving 20 years, and that since she's a sex offender, she wasn't allowed to be transferred to a minimum security camp. The Bureau of Prisons had to waive a rule for that to happen. Who made that decision? We don't know. Why? We don't know.
Great.
And former federal prosecutor Eli Honig had other oddities about this situation as well.
You know what's so unusual here, Omar, is that DOJ ordinarily, I did this many, many times when I was a prosecutor, does give substantial benefits to cooperating witnesses. Now, there's a couple things that are different here. When I say benefits, usually it's a sentencing benefit. Usually DOJ will write a letter to the judge saying, this person was an effective, honest cooperator, therefore I recommend less prison time. However, when I say cooperator, Ghislaine Maxwell does not meet that definition. Cooperator means a person who has been thoroughly vetted, deemed to be credible, and somebody who DOJ has brought actual prosecutions based on their testimony. She's done none of those things. So she's already gotten a substantial benefit, yet without doing the things that you would ordinarily require of what I would consider a proper cooperating witness.
So that's all very unusual, Lucky. But don't worry if it sounds fishy, because an administration official told CNN no leniency is being given or discussed. That's just false.
My concerns are at ease. Thank you.
Then things got even stranger, because somehow the people behind the anti-Trump podcast Mueller, she wrote, got their hands on Maxwell's security records.
Wow.
Which are not public. I don't know how they got their hands on those records. And the records did confirm she's classified as a threat to the public because of her sex offender status. So she had to be waived to be allowed in a minimum security camp. But more interesting, look at her level in custody summary. See at the end how her custody level is categorized as out. That means she's allowed to leave the minimum security camp for work assignments.
So,
I mean, she could do it anyway because there's no fences, but she's allowed to just leave and just work in the community. Just work at the ABC, whatever. You know, she can just work wherever she wants.
we could have her on PEP.
We could have her on PEP. I know she's a pepper. Ghislaine, come on. I'll take back everything I said if you come on PEP. And that, by the way, is the same deal that Jeffrey Epstein himself got back in 2008 when Alex Acosta gave him his sweetheart deal. We don't know if she has left the camp, to be fair. She might not have had any work assignments yet. But to state the obvious, sex offenders aren't allowed to receive those privileges without a waiver. Who gave her the waiver? Why did they give her the waiver? These are questions that we want answered. For what's worth, Trump completely denies any knowledge of Maxwell getting any special treatment.
Were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department...
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
And do you believe that she is...
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Well, actually, it sounds like an extremely uncommon thing to me, to be honest. But look, if you can't trust Trump, then who can you trust? One more thing. This week, Maxwell's ex-prison mate spoke to the Daily Mail and said it was common knowledge amongst inmates that Maxwell hoped to get a pardon from Joe Biden. Not Trump, Joe Biden, in exchange for information about guess who?
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Donald Trump. Quote, I heard her tell another inmate that she had dirt on Trump and it was going to get her a pardon from Biden. I guess Biden's camp just didn't want to go down that route, said the inmate. Interesting.
Whoa.
Maybe that dirt was that Trump was the perfect gentleman. Maybe that was the dirt. Or maybe she's full of shit. Having said all this, I wouldn't be waiting for any evidence of any of this to be coming out anytime soon for a few reasons. Number one, Trump is in power. But also, Maxwell obviously isn't an idiot. Obviously, she would have denied knowledge of any wrongdoing during the interview. But even if they release all the Epstein-related documents, even the ones that mention Trump, Trump's had his name redacted from all of them anyway. Like, we know that for a fact.
Yes.
Because they said that he was a private citizen when the investigation of Epstein was launched in 2006. And then private citizens have their names redacted, you see. So the FOIA team, even if you got the FOIA, even if you got the Freedom of Information Act to release the documents,
he'd still be out. Yeah.
You wouldn't know what's Trump and what's not. It'll all be redacted. And they have an exemption there protecting individuals from clearly unwarranted invasions of personal privacy and also protecting personal information in law enforcement records. So what that means is, unless Trump personally, voluntarily waives his privacy rights, we're never going to see those unredacted documents ever.
So the jury's still out.
Who knows? Maybe he'll waive his privacy rights.
He is a true gentleman.
Yeah. Anyway, my point is that it's never coming. Like, just, you can rattle the cages all you like. Those redactions aren't going. And that's just something people need to bear in mind. Okay? There is going to be no ending to this story. It's just a fact. As far as grand jury materials go, we told you last time Florida court had already rejected the bid to unseal the Florida grand jury's transcripts. There were two New York courts I said they applied to unseal the grand jury docs in New York. The first New York court said no a few weeks ago. Okay. That was District Judge Paul Engelmeyer. He ruled against it. He was quite angry, actually. He said, its entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein and Maxwell's crimes or the government investigation into them is demonstrably false. The court's review confirmed that unsealing the grand jury materials would not reveal new information of any consequence. And he said, a member of the public might conclude that the government's motion for their unsealing of grand jury materials was aimed not at transparency, but at diversion. aimed not at full disclosure, but at the illusion of such disclosure. Contrary to the government's depiction, the Maxwell grand jury testimony is not a matter of significant historical public interest. Far from it. It consists of garden variety summary testimony by 2 law enforcement agents. And that's it. In fact, he was so angry, he said he almost unsealed the grand jury proceedings just to prove how dodgy the government was being. So
such a shame that, that would have only backfired.
And then last week, the second New York court said no as well. Judge Richard Berman said there was no legitimate exception in this case to the principle of keeping grand jury materials secret. But like Engelmeyer, he was pissed off and he had a point to make about how shoddy the process was. He said, the government has already undertaken a comprehensive investigation into the Epstein case. And not surprisingly, has assembled a trove of Epstein documents, interviews and exhibits. The government committed that it would share its Epstein investigation materials with the public. The government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files and materials dwarf the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials. The government is the logical party to make comprehensive disclosure to the public of the Epstein files. By comparison, the instant grand jury motion appears to be a diversion from the breadth and scope of the Epstein files in the government's possession. The grand jury testimony is merely a hearsay snippet of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged conduct. So, don't put much stock in the grand jury materials either, folks. They are not going to make any difference, and they're not coming. There are House subpoenas as well, though. James Comer has postponed Maxwell's testimony, unsurprisingly, before the Oversight Committee. But there are other interviews coming. He's subpoenaed a lot of people. House Oversight Committee Chair, for the House Oversight Committee, Comer has issued 11 subpoenas. Bill and Hillary Clinton, of course. James Comey, for some reason. Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Alberto Gonzalez, Bill Barr, Loretta Lynch, Robert Mueller. Amazingly, Trump was not on the list. Who would have thought? But importantly, Robert Mueller was, whose relationship with Jeffrey Epstein everyone is wondering about. In the end, they've let Robert Mueller go because he's got apparently very bad Parkinson's and they don't want to yell at him. Like, they want Jim Jordan to sit there berating him while he's shaking away and they'll make him look like monsters. So they let him go. Bill Barr has already been interviewed in private. They haven't publicly released the transcript, but I reckon we're getting a flavour for what we can expect from these interviews. It's a game of political telephone, essentially. Charlie Kirk said that James Comer said that Bill Barr said that he had never seen anything that would implicate Trump in any of this. And then Robert Garcia, the Democrat who he played before, said that was not true and that Barr had said he could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. Very important difference. And that Comer should release the entire unedited transcript of the interview to the public, said Robert Garcia. My expectation is that what we're going to see from every interviewee is like that. We're going to see relentless spinning by Comer on Fox News and Newsmax of one side, and then the Democrats will say, no, it's the direct opposite, the other side. And then they'll release the transcript weeks later when the testimony is old news. That's what I think we can expect. The next question is whether the Democrats kind of fell into a trap with these subpoenas. Because James Comer, he's feeling pretty good about these subpoenas because he thinks, he doesn't care about Robert Mueller, you'd be surprised. He cares about Bill Clinton. He thinks he's tricked the Democrats into endorsing subpoenas for Bill Clinton by having all these subpoenas. Let's play what he had to say.
What makes these subpoenas special and historical is that they came as a result of a bipartisan vote. The Democrats made a motion, like we knew they would, to subpoena the Epstein documents, which Republicans support. Scott Perry from Pennsylvania amended that motion to include subpoenas for both Bill and Hillary Clinton, as well as 6 former attorneys generals, and the Democrats voted for it. Now they're scared and trying to say they didn't vote for it, but they did. It's on record. record, and that helps us in court. If the Clintons try to fight this subpoena, which we presume they will, this subpoena came as a result of a bipartisan vote, which has never happened before in the House Oversight Committee. So we're looking forward to hearing from the Clintons. The American people want to know what went on Epstein Island. We know Clinton went there many times. We just want to ask Bill Clinton what he saw when he was there, and who all was involved.
Now, obviously, there's no evidence that Clinton went to Epstein Island, no matter how many times James Comer says it and how many times Trump says it. They just say it over and over again. They're trying to spread that lie. But maybe the Republicans did outthink the Democrats. Maybe the Democrats are happy to throw the Clintons under a bus. I don't really know. One way or another, Clinton's going to be having a hard time in the next month or so. And we'll hear the spin from Comer. And then we'll hear the counter spin from the Democrats. And then we'll see a transcript about 2 months later. That's what's coming. The one person, I should say, though, without all the cynicism, who I am actually really interested in hearing from is Alex Acosta. They are interviewing him as well. That's the guy who gave Epstein his sweetheart deal back in 2007.
Oh, interesting.
I'm super interested in what he has to say. I will be reading that entire transcript. I promise you that. There's also docs being subpoenaed by the Department of Justice, like, for instance, from the DOJ, who are starting to hand over those documents, or the documents in their custody. Bit by bit, they're dribbling out. There's 100,000 pages of them. Also, they're subpoenaing Epstein's estate for things like the birthday card. Remember the birthday book, the 50th birthday book? They want that. They want flight logs, bank information, anything that could be construed to be a potential list of clients, so on. This is all about to go up a gear, Lockie, in the next couple of weeks, which is why I want to mention this now.
Okay.
Because Mike Johnson made sure Congress went on holiday before they actually dealt with this story.
Yeah.
They came back on a holiday, from holiday now. Next week they start again. They're going to have all the testimony. It's going to be back on. Also, Ro Khanna and Tom Massey, who are rabble-rousing before, they've just taken up where they left off. They're having a press conference tomorrow, I believe, with 10 victims. We're going to town.
It's on.
Yeah, it's on. I mean, it's about time that the victims started speaking, I think. So yeah, this is going to become this. By the next PEP, this is going to be another top story, I suspect. So I just flagged that right now. Finally, before we go, I just want to mention the Epstein video. CBS really did the work on that prison video. Remember they released the prison video of Epstein? Like
the 11-hour one, yeah.
Yeah, well, more than an hour. The one
11
hour. Yeah, 11 hour. Yeah, the 11-hour one with the missing minute, apparently. They poked a bunch of holes in it, CBS. They really did the job on this. Firstly, I didn't know this until CBS said this. You can see Epstein on camera at 7:49 on the video. He's seen walking. I mean, he's not very clear. He's like pretty blurry. But he apparently, it's probably him, seen walking towards the stairs leading to his cell. And here's what's interesting, Lockie. You never see him again. You don't see him go into his cell. Am I pushing a conspiracy theory suggesting he never went to his cell? No, because he was found dead in his cell. He definitely went to his cell. What I'm saying is, you see Epstein walking to the stairs, and then you don't see him again until he's found dead in his cell. You know what that tells me?
That we couldn't see up the stairs?
Yes. All the way to his cell. It tells me that someone can walk into his cell and not be on camera.
Without being seen.
That's what that tells me. Apparently you can, well, not apparently, I've seen it. You can just see the edge of the stairs, but it's really easy to avoid being on the camera with that angle. So that's the first pretty big hole. So the video is completely useless just because of that and nothing else. But then there's more. Our only evidence that no one walked up the stairs to his cell is the testimony of staff members Noel and Thomas, who seemed to both be asleep at one point. Secondly, at about 10:40, you see the very edge of someone walking up those stairs. And we have no idea who they are or why they're walking up the stairs. That's the next thing. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
That's a pretty big...
Thirdly, there's more. Oh, there's more, Lucky.
Oh, wow.
When that video was released, they called it raw footage, right?
Yeah.
They said it's raw footage.
Yes.
but you can easily see a cursor on the screen at one point.
Now that's amateur.
And an online menu appears at one point. It's not raw footage. It's a screen cap of a recording, which may or may not be raw footage. We don't know. Right? Fourthly, the footage is obviously, at the very least, 2 videos stuck together because the aspect ratio changes halfway through.
Right, of course, yeah.
Right, so at the very least, it's not one clip. At the very least. Fifthly, we've heard about the missing minute, right?
Yes.
That's the part where you go, oh, that's where the aspect ratio changes. Well, Wired said there was a missing 3 minutes, not a missing minute. CBS said that the video was rolling at a slightly higher than normal speed when you analyze it, when you break it down. And so even though it claims there's 11 hours of footage there's actually only 10 hours and 52 minutes of footage.
Ooh.
There's 8 missing minutes, Lockie, not 3 and not 1. 8 missing minutes. Sixthly, remember when Pam Bondi said,
there was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999, so every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing, so we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
Well, a high-level government source familiar with the investigation told CBS News that is not true. That the FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, and the Department of Justice's Office of Inspector General are in possession of a full, unedited copy of the video without a missing minute, or in fact, a missing 8 minutes. But for some reason, we haven't seen it. And finally, as if that wasn't all enough, it appears that Epstein was allowed to make an unmonitored phone call that night. We see him in the video. When we see him in the video, he's leaving from making that phone call.
Okay.
Epstein said he wanted to call his mother. That's interesting, Lockie, because his mother died in 2003. The unit manager dialed the number. A man answered the phone. I'm pretty sure the man was... Look, I know we live in gender-curious times, but I'm pretty sure the man was not Jeffrey Epstein's mum, and they handed the phone to Jeffrey Epstein. That is the last call that Epstein ever made.
Before visiting his mother.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, for real. And we have no idea who it was to and what they said.
What?
We have no idea. So it's fair to say that some questions remain about the night Epstein died. Can I just say, even to this day, I'm not a person who says that he was murdered. I'm not one of those people.
No.
What I am saying, though, is this video is a farce.
Yeah.
And their attempts to try to batten down conspiracy theories are not very effective.
I will say,
to say the least.
Yeah. After you point out those 8 or something questions, it does make me think, when was the last time Ghislaine remembers getting a massage with Epstein?
Yeah.
That's the only question I would have.
Oh, I've got so many questions, Lockie. Anyway, that's something you guys can puzzle over until the next PEP on Friday in only 3 days' time. We're going to be talking, we'll be talking CDC then for sure. Oh my God. I was going to call this.
You're going to use your CDC name.
I was going to do my CDC name because I've got to think of a new name. If you're wondering why this is an extra and not a new PEP, when the whole PEP I've been talking about new PEP, you'll know I couldn't think of a name. That's a bit of a peek behind the curtain, folks.
We don't bank them.
Whether there's a PEP or there's an extra, I'll see you for the next PEP on Friday. Thank you very much, Lockie.
Thank you very much, Chaz.
Till then, stay peppy.